Second Part. Chapter 21. The Heavy, Cruelest Truth. Everyone in the live broadcast room watched as Yi installed the teleport hall, and bought a group of human slaves with a lot of money. They watched a group of sallow and thin slaves walking out of the teleport hall. The live broadcast room was rarely quiet for a while. During this short period of time, no one was laughing and posting all kinds of funny comments, and no one was making fun of them. Most of the people watching the live broadcast were P-level gifted citizens without extraordinary powers. They were responsible for a lot of labor activities, and their lives in Klein's plane were not very good. They often complained about this and that. But no matter how bad their life is, it is still paradise for these human natives who have become slaves. How many humans are there in the boundless plane? Just the numerous human planes that have been brought under the jurisdiction of the Human Alliance among the explored planes have populations in the hundreds of millions. Not to mention the relatively low civilized indigenous people in these native planes. They don't know what the system is at all. There is no perfect, extraordinary system, and they are still running along the ancient constitution. If they are not detected or discovered by intelligent life, then these native planes may be able to operate relatively peacefully. But once it is observed by a powerful intelligent race and the space-time distance is determined, it will be a terrible disaster. No race has too many resources. In the boundless plane, the plane where intelligent races can survive and reproduce is itself one of the largest resources. Every moment, indigenous people from the original world are discovered, slaughtered, conquered, and enslaved. If you want to prevent this from happening again, then the Human Alliance must become the strongest among the many peak races in the boundless plane. Truly have the right to speak. If one day, other alien races discover the plane where indigenous humans live, they will not dare to invade easily. Instead, they will report to the Human Alliance as soon as possible and provide more protection. In this way, human beings can be considered the truly strongest race. And if you want to do this, you can't just rely on words, you still have to show off your muscles. Infinite war is the stepping stone for the top races to become the most powerful race. Only by constantly winning can you gain respect. This is the cruelest truth in the boundless plane. Perhaps, this is the meaning of the Pioneer Army. Liberate the indigenous people, help them build extraordinary territories, incorporate them into the Alliance's territory for protection, and spread the fire of civilization to them. To be honest, this is the first time I have seen the existence of slaves with my own eyes. I have seen them through video data before, which touched me a lot. This time the Dawn Systems version of New Human Observation Record is indeed a great experience. A bold attempt to live broadcast the process of pioneers building their territory for the first time, so that we, P-class citizens, can also understand the cruelty of this world, instead of just watching live broadcasts of singing and dancing to whitewash peace. What you said above is very good. Our current peace and security is protected by the major legions on the front line. We also hope that more indigenous humans will be protected and will no longer be oppressed. Bai Xiao watched the heartfelt barrages in the background of the live broadcast room, which were like short essays, and decisively cancelled the word limit function temporarily, allowing the viewers in the live broadcast room to freely express their inner emotions. Soon, the barrage was flooded with one sentence. War is never far away. I hope all heroes return safely. War is never far away. I hope all heroes return safely. War is never far away. These are all the most sincere blessings from contemporary netizens. Some new viewers who are not yet aware of the situation are silent and dare not speak. Looking at the footage being shown in the live broadcast room, those who have just been bought by human lords, the indigenous people were hugging and cheering each other ecstatically, and everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but follow suit and send blessings. While other territorial live broadcast rooms are still quietly hoeing and cultivating the land and killing small monsters to level up, Yuye's live broadcast room has already begun to focus on the concept of value. Isn't this a blow to other live broadcast rooms? Looking at the popularity of today's live broadcast, Bai Xiao sighed, it seems that the second round of Traffic Pool will be successfully promoted again today. But this kind of emotional exaggeration did not last long, and was soon broken by Yuye's wealthy behavior of casually taking out 2 skill scrolls. Sure enough, the audience in the live broadcast room had such an idea in their minds. As long as this anchor named Ikuya Hano appears in the camera, the entire live broadcast room will begin to develop outrageously. Even the sensational scene just now will be filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. That's a set of 10,000 gold, language proficiency, skill scrolls. This new anchor took it out without blinking an eyelid, and gave it directly to the slave. In this world, there are many things to squeeze out all the value of slaves. Especially as a lord, he has very high supervision authority over slaves. Life and death are all in a matter of thoughts. In this case, as long as he gives the command, slaves who can only eat food have no so-called human rights at all. Even the Federation with such a developed civilization only provides the most basic guarantees for the treatment of slaves. For example, it only requires that slaves be fed 3 meals a day, as well as the most basic personal safety, etc. In the eyes of many alliance people, buying these slaves back from foreigners is the greatest gift. But in this live broadcast room, Ikuya Hano actually took out a skill scroll worth 10,000 gold for the slave to use. This extraordinary move naturally caused an uproar in the live broadcast room. Damn it, do you really not regard money as money? Wouldn't it be nice to keep these 10,000 gold coins to buy other skill scrolls for yourself? Do you have to buy an extra scroll for a slave? What's wrong with people who are so rich? They treat money like dirt. They have spent all the money they spent on buying so many slaves, and they still need this little money? I'm so envious. As a slave, you can use scrolls worth 10,000 gold, but my salary is less than 3,000 gold. Woohoo! It's so true. Raise your hand if your salary is less than 3,000 gold. Excuse me, is the anchor still in need of a partner? I'm single, hardworking. I only need a monthly salary of 5,000 gold, please. A large barrage of comments about his salary flew by. Damn it, these P-class citizens can't compare to those of the Pioneer Corps. After all, those extraordinary people have opened up territories and made huge contributions to the protection of the Alliance, but they also bear the same risks. Now, they can't even compare to the slaves they just bought from their territory. This world is indeed too cruel. Chapter 22. Is there a hidden boss in the group? Today's live broadcast has been completed. As the live broadcast room is closed, the audience also leaves one by one. Satisfied, Bai Xiao switched to other live broadcast rooms to see if he could get some good seeds. Ikuya Hano successfully broke into the second round of traffic pool, which was a good sign. And based on the current scale of construction of his extraordinary territory, more than a dozen first-level extraordinary buildings are spread out on the ground, which not only has the population of the territory, but also raises dragon cubs. Bai Xiao visually inspected the live broadcast rooms in the next round of traffic pools. They were all crooked and cracked, and none of them could beat them. She estimated that even if Ikuya Hano started to develop normally now, the first 10 rounds of basic flow pool PK would definitely be easy to win. The development of Ikuya Hano's territory is really too abnormal. As long as you beat 30 rounds of PK in the traffic pool, you can enter the signing process. After signing the contract, Ikuya Hano can independently control the live broadcast time. When you have a certain fan base, you can follow up with live broadcasts and sales. As long as the heat can last for a few months. Then she, Bai Xiao, is also going to make a lot of money. Bai Xiao didn't dare to think that Ikuya Hano would really become a big hit. There were really too many people in the endless plain, and the audience might be sucked away by something more exciting and hot at any time. While Bai Xiao was dreaming of getting rich overnight, Yu Yi was looking through the system group interface, where a group of people were chatting and having S**X. This group of people are still talking about fighting goblins in the territory of mountain farmers. My sister is the queen, wipe your saliva, little brother Shanai is so handsome. When I was killing the goblin, all I could think of was the little brother, so my attack force was a bit heavier. Little farmer in the mountains, brother, please respect yourself. Flower girl is not bothered, I will be scared to death by non-tung. Very silly and naive, it's just a little routine every day. Yesterday you were bragging about your talent, today you're bragging about your looks, What else are you going to brag about tomorrow? Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. Okay, I know you are ugly, so there is no need to see you. Back off. Seeing the two of them starting to fight again, the group that had long been used to it brought back the deviated topic. Human hair loss research monkey, but I have to say that Shanai is indeed the liver emperor. Yesterday, I thought that only one, planting farm, was built, but I didn't expect that 3 were built. Sad love, 3. Inhuman. Who can understand what it feels like to be born in a mineral world with few trees? Sad love, but I'm curious as to why Shan Yi hired people. What's the asking price? Little farmer in the mountains, not much, just 15 units of spiritual rice. Speaking of which, I made quite a profit from this business. Not only did I wipe out dozens of goblins, I also wiped out all the monsters and beasts within a few kilometers of the surrounding area. Take out my big treasure. Hey, everyone gets what they need. Fighters just have to fight more. But the boss's spiritual rice is really delicious. After the battle, I ate a small bowl and felt very full. After drinking this cup of milk, let me tell you one thing, it is really delicious. The boss is also a real liver. All 3 farms are full of spiritual grains and are almost mature. This is a real boss. If I can't make a living in the future, I will live in the boss's house permanently. Flower Girl is not bothered. Didn't the boss just build the farm yesterday? It will be able to produce it today? Little farmer in the mountains, actually, I am a druid, warrior, but I have no interest in fighting. In addition, my talent, natural growth, has a catalytic effect on plant growth. I used it a little today. I found the effect to be pretty good. Sad relationship, 666, as expected, the druid's dream is to farm. Below the speech, all the words 666 appeared on the screen again. A group of people were saying that with such a big grower in the group, their food and clothing problems could probably be solved. Among them, Sorrowful Love is the most popular. After all, the world he was born in has too high a concentration of metal elements. Although some plants are edible, they are very tough on people's teeth. Yu Yi was moved. He now had a large population in his territory, and his farm was used by Dave to plant sunflowers. It was the time when he needed food. Although he was able to purchase spiritual rice in large quantities from the Shuguang System Mall. But Bob's daily specials can't be exchanged for cash every day. This money still has to be saved as a reserve fund, and it is better to use it sparingly. After all, the things in the Dawn system still have a premium. Many of its things are collected from the lords and then sold at a slightly higher price. After all this time, isn't there a price difference? Especially for daily necessities such as food, if the player can produce it himself, it is better to trade with the player. Unless it is a really bulk commodity, or the quantity is particularly large and cannot be obtained by an ordinary small territory, then the Dawn system is the best choice. If you can exchange things for things, that would be even better. It's a pity that Yuya's extraordinary territory has a daily output, Bob's daily special blend, but the output of Amber Tears is small and high grade, which is definitely not affordable for today's players. Oh, right. I almost forgot about the bulletin board for watching pigs and waiting for rabbits, and the daily output of 1 native hare. This should, probably, maybe be considered output, right? After silently complaining about his waste building in Xingli, he sent a private message to Mountain Farmer, preparing to discuss the purchase of spiritual rice. Ikuya Hano, are you interested in selling Lingmi? Yu Yi sent a private message to Little Farmer in the mountains, but the other party seemed to be addicted to chatting and bragging with friends in the group, and did not reply for a long time. After a while, Little Farmer in the mountains replied. Little Farmer in the mountains, of course I am interested. I accept the gold coin transaction. Of course, if there are spiritual seeds, it is also okay. I just don't know how much you want. Ikuya Hano, I will take whatever you can offer. Little Farmer in the mountains, damn it, bro, are you kidding me? I have 3 farms, 30 building grids of soil, and each building grid can produce 100 units of spiritual rice. A total of 3,000 units. Even if I keep 500 units to eat for myself, there are still 2,500 units of spiritual rice. Little farmer in the mountains, if it is sold at the price of 10 gold coins per unit in the mall, it will cost a full 25,000 gold coins. Little farmer in the mountains, of course, I don't want it to be so expensive. Give the boss a small change, 2W gold coins will be enough. Yuya sent a transaction request from the Time and Space Tavern without saying a word, and a huge amount of 20,000 gold coins was directly transferred to the intermediate account. At the other end, Lin Min, who was sitting at the wooden table in the hut, holding the fragrant rice in his hand and preparing to feast on it, looked at the pop-up virtual panel and began to doubt his life. 20,000 gold coins? Is this the amount of money a novice village lord should earn in just a few days? Or is this guy cheating? This is impossible. As the supreme creation, the Dawn system cannot produce such a big bug when making games. Lin Min always thought that he was doing well among the life players. As a middle school boy who is addicted to online games, he has always regarded Blue Star Time Travel as an online game. This is why he has been able to maintain a very high enthusiasm for tree playing, because in this kind of open-world, online game, if you want to be superior to others, without Blue Star's Krypton Gold channel, everyone can only make progress, or simply by luck. The Liver Emperor and the European Emperor are the two main characters in the game. If the possibility of hanging is eliminated, then there is only one possibility left. The hidden boss of the group opposite may have saved the human alliance in his previous life, which is why he became so rich in such a short period of time. This is the chosen one, the destined European Emperor. Lin Min's eyes lit up, he couldn't help but rush forward and hug his thigh. Chapter 23 Private Group, Allocation of Level 2 Leaders. In order to get the attention of the future boss, Lin Min was very conscientious, and his heart was actually bleeding when he wiped out 5,000 gold with just a fraction. But fortunately, the prices of seeds and mature spiritual rice in the system mall are very different, so he can still make a lot of money from this business. Lin Min naturally had his own reasons for being willing to bleed so much. Although Lin Min self-exploded his natural ability, natural growth, in the group chat, he did not tell others that he was a real S-level talent. As a druid close to nature, this plant. Only talents such as S can ripen level 1 spiritual plants so quickly, but the price is that soil fertility will be lost at an accelerated rate, and this skill has a long cooldown, which will gradually shorten as his strength advances. Lin Min's self-explosion talent in the group seems to have the intention of showing off in a cup. But this, Ikuya Hano, who barely spoke in the group, was an eye-opener for him today. Change hands and get 2W gold. Thinking like this, he immediately took a screenshot of the transfer record and secretly forwarded it to a small chat group with more than a dozen people. Sad love, damn it, this is another big boss. Flower girl is not bothered, damn it, 2W gold. How did you earn this? Does this boss still need pendants? I have a delicate body and is easy to push down. Little farmer in the mountains, this big guy took care of all the level 1 spiritual valleys that I had given birth to all day long. Well, a full 2,500 units of Spirit Valley. During the next 7 days of skill cooling down, I'm going to count my money to survive. Cute-faced thief, at this point in time, if you want to earn so much gold, you must be a super European king. Either he was gifted with the ability to win gold coins, or he was born in a plane with indigenous humans, and had a group of indigenous people under him to help with the production. Seeing as he bought so much spiritual rice, it must be the latter. Did this cup of milk, I don't know if this big guy has any work. If we can give you a job, then our warriors who are not engaged in production can also make a lot of money. My sister is the queen, the boss must be very handsome, wipe your saliva. Take out my big baby, that guy upstairs, if I punch you, you will cry for a long time. Sister is the queen, believe it or not, the one I took out is bigger than yours. Sad love, wait a minute. This name. I've seen it before. This big guy seems to have made a deal with me before. Sad love, that's right. This big guy took 2 rabbits and a few units of berries and traded them with me for 10 units of ore. Cute-faced thief, then you have to build a good relationship. People don't like to talk in large groups, so maybe they like to keep a low profile. Let's just get to know each other in our own small group. Don't spread the word in large groups. Cute-faced thief's remarks were supported by many people in the small group. Therefore, after this transaction, Ikuya Hano became famous in the more active small group of this group, but not in the large group. There's something going on in the group. Naturally, Yuya knew nothing about the exchanges in the private group. He was listening to Mu Zhong arranging work in the territory at the moment. The food, clothing, housing and transportation of 100 slaves were all a big problem. Yuya harvested 2,500 units of spiritual rice from mountain farmers, plus bought 1,000 units from the system mall, which can relieve food pressure for a period of time. But it is impossible for him to solve this problem purely by importing. He still has to unleash the potential of these 100 people. In addition to Mu Zhong, there are 3 men and 1 woman who have also reached the second level. These second-level warriors naturally gained Yuya's attention because of their strength. Although almost all of them are second-level warriors who have advanced through 20 points in a single attribute point. It can be regarded as the weakest existence among all second-level beings, but it is definitely not something that first-level warriors can easily defeat. In order to rationalize the work that each slave is responsible for, Yuya asked Mu Zhong to make a simple statistics of the talents of all the natives. The statistical results surprised him. The talents of this group of slaves were almost all poor. The vast majority of slaves had P-level talents assessed by the Dawn system. Only a small number of F-level talents existed. Among these 100 people, those who can achieve D-level are the outstanding ones. Even Mu Zhong and others who are already at the second level can barely reach the C-level talent. Thinking of the star power talents in the group that often start at B-level, the difference between the two is a bit too far. And I haven't heard of anyone among the 500 people in the group who is ranked P. Could it be that humans from blue stars in other universes are generally more talented than humans from the world of endless planes? Or is there some difference between the human beings born in 2 worlds with completely different laws? Of course, this is just a guess by Yu Yi. Although the star power talents of these Tianquan people are not high, Yu Yi still tried his best to divide them into 2 categories according to the Shuguang system. One type is the combat worker, who is responsible for patrolling and protecting the village. One type is producers, who contribute to the construction of the territory. As for the combat professionals, Yu Ye further subdivided them. For those who are talented in long-range attacks, they are incorporated into the archery team, led by the only female second-level warrior Wu Lu, who is always stationed near the first-level arrow tower. For those who are talented in spells, they will be organized into a mage team, led by Song Anjia of the mage profession, and stationed near the level 1 mage tower. Finally, the team with professional talents such as knight and warrior, which is also the largest team, is led by Mu Zhong as president, and is divided into 2 deputy captains, led by Fan Shi and Gao Chao respectively. At this point, the squad's armed squad has been initially established. As for the remaining people, Yu Ye classified them all as producers. The first thing they had to do was to build their own private houses. Due to the initial shortage of territorial resources, Yu Ye was unable to demarcate a large area of land for them to build as they wished. He planned to follow the 6-person dormitory model he used when he was in school, so that more people could live in the limited land resources. People. Of course, Yu Ye can directly spend gold coins to exchange for general-purpose buildings, private houses, from the Shuguang system. But first, those private houses are small houses with very good architectural styles, suitable for a family of 3 to live in. They occupy a large area and the land utilization rate is not high. Once everyone uses this kind of private house, it will look good, but it will cost a lot. The sales volume is also too large, and the territory is spread too widely. Yu Ye has not forgotten that he will have to resist the invasion of the enemy camp in the future. Secondly, Yu Ye bought the slaves not to support them, but to let them help in the development and construction of the territory. In other words, they could not be left idle and had to find work. And letting them build their own dormitory is what they can do now. Chapter 24 The Enemy Camp's First Attack Notice. The reason why Yuya immediately grouped the slaves into warriors and producers was because he hoped that after adding a large number of people, the entire territory would not be so chaotic, but would become orderly. The raw materials and wood resources for building the dormitory, with a wave of Yuya's hand, 2,000 units of wood appeared in the open space for them to use. This operation, which the Tianquan people had never seen before, immediately gained a wave of awe from the slaves. Of course, these wood are only for temporary use. After the slaves' dormitory is completed, the consumed wood will have to be pulled back bit by bit. The slaves without the little dragon cubs and the Shuguang system can pull down trees much slower than Yuya's efficiency, but after all, they have more people, which can be regarded as freeing up some of Yuya's time in collecting resources. Of course, in order to avoid spending a lot of time moving wood, Yuya still asked the Tianquan people to build a lumberyard in the forest and put the collected wood there. When Yuya was free, he could just use the system's module technology to collect it directly. I have to say, this is still very convenient. The tasks related to the dormitory were arranged, and Yuya began to non-stop planning some trivial tasks for the future. In order to feed this population of more than 100 people, Yuyi temporarily divided the players who did not need to build houses into collectors and planters. The former collected edible berries and continued to store food, while the latter was sent to Dave by Yuyi. I believe that this NPC wearing sunglasses and lying on a rocking chair basking in the sun can easily handle these people. Just because Yuya is planning to build several more ordinary planting farms. As for the lack of ore, Yuyi once again found sad love. For some reason, Yuyi always felt that this transaction went smoothly. The other party concluded the transaction of exchanging 200 units of wood for 50 units of ore without even lowering the price. But Yuya didn't think much about it. Instead, 5 more planting farms were placed side by side behind the original, Dave's planting farm, and handed over to the growers to plant. The seeds naturally came from Yuya. 1,000 units of Spirit Valley seeds. The entire territory began to operate like a machine, everyone had a job to do, and everyone was full of energy. When these slaves ate the spiritual rice that even the wild boar civilians could not eat, they instantly became devoted to Yuyi, the new lord. In a blink of an eye, the whole morning had completely passed. Yuya was patrolling the territory with Big Mac, when a red system pop-up window suddenly occupied his field of vision. Warn! Warn! The human camp plane, Klein Plane, within 5 time and space nodes from you is currently under attack by the hostile camp, Insect Hive. In order to relieve the pressure on the front line, Klein Plane, this system will use the power of time and space to divide the enemy Zerg into small groups and randomly distribute them around the territories of nearby living players. Please destroy this enemy army. Permanent mission, Infinite War, has been opened. The enemy's first round of attack will begin in 3 days. All life players, please be prepared. Note, the final reward of this task will be evaluated and distributed based on the number of rounds of resistance. The highest reward is SSS level, and the lowest evaluation is P level. The appearance of this information instantly caused the entire group to explode. All players who are still alive in the group have undoubtedly received relevant mission information. Little farmer in the mountains, friends, why did this announcement come so suddenly? My arrow tower and other buildings haven't been built yet? Isn't this just a good send-off? Sister is the queen, hey, handsome brother, don't be afraid. We warriors have also received the mission message and can go to the territories of nearby living players to help resist by hiring. Take out my big treasure, brother Shanai, I have wronged you. However, we have cooperated before and are familiar with our respective strengths, so we can cooperate. Small farmer in the mountains, Sad relationship, is there any boss of the warriors? Killing people, help. After all the warriors who come to my territory survive this wave of attacks, I will forge a weapon for them for free. Flower girl is not bothered, I have nothing, so I can only give up this body. If you are willing to come, be prepared to warm my bed. Today's group is completely activated, except for a few people such as Yu Yi who have not spoken yet. Other people, whether they were life players or combat professionals, came out one after another. After all, this is a matter of real life and safety, and most people cannot sit still. Life players need to garrison their own territories, while warriors who have no fixed residence and have not built any buildings need to join the territory of life players to defend it. This is a task issued by the Dawn system to all players, and it must be carried out. The Dawn system has brought many conveniences to Blue Star humans. When the Klein plane, belonging to the human camp, is attacked by the hostile camp, all players have to contribute, which is fair. After this incident, the ratio of life players to warrior players in this 500-person group was almost determined. Excluding the few unlucky ones who died in the past few days, the ratio between the two was about 1 to 4. In other words, according to the theory of equal distribution, in this attack, each living player can be defended by 4 warriors. But it is obvious that people's instinct for profit will never occur in this situation. For example, Mountain Farmer has recruited 8 warriors in the group. In addition to the mission rewards given by the system for successful resistance, he will also give some additional spiritual rice to the warriors as personal rewards. What is this called? Is this called a transaction? This is called worldliness. The greater the number of warriors, the higher the possibility of surviving an attack, the more rounds of invasion they can resist, and the richer the rewards. Under this premise, life players will naturally recruit more warriors. Once the original ratio of 1 to 4 is broken, it is destined that there will be no warriors in the territory of the living players. Very silly and naive, no warriors come to my place. I have an S-level talent, waste utilization, and I am definitely very capable. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, ha ha ha, your dad is laughing so hard. It turns out that there is such an innate ability of waste utilization. Didn't you say that B and A per capita are just bragging? Why are you bragging this time? Just suddenly transformed into S and so on? Very silly and naive, can't you see? This talent name is specifically designed to catch trash, like you. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. 6. You can defend the city by yourself. Don't die so soon. It will be so lonely without you in the group. Sure enough, this exchange of life players recruiting combat workers turned into a war of words between the two. After being dissuaded, the two dived to become invisible at the same time, and apparently went to the private chat interface to engage in a protracted war. In the end, it was not known whether the two men had recruited any warrior players to guard their territory. Chapter 25: The First Conflict Within the Group. Wish you a happy Qingming festival. Is it true that no warriors are willing to come to my territory? I just built 2 level 1 arrow towers. As long as 2 warriors are needed, they should be able to defend against a wave of attacks. Wish you a happy Qingming festival. I only want the lowest level F reward. Even the rewards I received can be given to the warriors. Wish you a happy Qingming festival. Woohoo, I just want to live. Halo of the Saint, boss in the mountains, you don't need so many people to defend your home, right? The enemy troops assigned to us by the system will definitely not be too many. After all, we have only been developing for a week. Halo of Saints, we are all from Blue Star, even from China, so we have to help each other. If many players cannot handle it in the first wave, it will definitely not be a good thing for our group, and we will definitely do so in the future. There are also new invasions and disasters. Saint Halo, as of now, our group has fewer people, but there is still no automatic replenishment. The 500 players in our group have different plane environments, resources, and products. Can you ensure that you won't need other people's resources in the future? Halo of the Saint, although you can trade with many beings in unknown planes through the time and space tavern, you can ensure that the person you are trading with has good intentions. In this case, everyone should work together to survive together. Hard times are better. Halo of the Saint, so I suggest that the living players who have extra resources can allocate the extra warriors to the territories of the living players that are still lacking, so as to ensure that the majority of people survive. Very silly and naive, well, it came as expected. The necessary creature in the end of the world, the Holy Mother. It fits your name very well, so just rely on the power of your Holy Mother to defeat the Zerg. Who has seen the fighting power of the Zerg now? What if 4 warriors can't defeat it? You won't talk about this? Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. 6. you haven't forgotten that your territory still has 0 combat workers, right? Although they say the Holy Mother, at least they are speaking for you. Your map cannon is really indistinguishable attack, pure leverage. Saint Halo's words immediately gained a large number of fans, almost all of them were life players who were short of manpower. Conflicts within the group over the distribution of combat workers officially broke out. Hundreds of messages flashed across the screen, and inactive ID accounts began to attack Mountain Farmer and others. There was indiscriminate bombing, and it became more and more intense. Yuya looked at the words of this, Saint's Halo, and fell into deep thought, although he did not completely agree with the other party's plan. But there is one thing he agrees with very much, that is, everyone is not in a life-or-death relationship. On the contrary, for this endless plane, all blue star humans are outsiders. Even within human beings, there are various chains of political correctness and contempt, let alone in this endless world where alien races are rampant. As a Chinese of the same race and origin, Yuya couldn't just watch the people in his group die in vain. Moreover, this is not only for others, but also for a better survival for yourself. Imagine that the number of people in the entire group is getting smaller and smaller, and the avatars are turning gray one by one. The channels and resources that Yuya can trade are also decreasing. For example, in the plane where Sad Love is located, minerals are mostly exposed on the surface for people to pick up, but Yuya has been exploring his own plane for so many days and has not found any mineral resources. When it develops to a higher level, the resources required will only increase. Moreover, he witnessed with his own eyes the tragedy of slaves coming out of the Tianquan plain. In this cruel world of endless plains, weakness is the original sin. Sooner or later, he will take back the plane belonging to the Tianquan human race. With foreign enemies in the surrounding plains, how could the people in the group start civil strife themselves? Thinking like this, Yuya could no longer remain silent, and he quickly typed the content on the public screen. Ikuya Hano, although I don't completely agree with this, Saint's Halo's point of view, he is right about one thing. We are all Chinese with the same roots and species. In this cruel world, it is better to help others if you can. Ikuya Hano, the more compatriots who survive such an invasion, the more resources we can draw from in the future. Ikuya Hano, lords who do not yet have enough warriors and have not started building war buildings can selectively give up their territories first and seek refuge in other territories to serve as war warriors, person's identity. Wait until you get through this disaster and then return to your own territory. Ikuya Hano, or several lords with money talents can get together to purchase second-level human warrior slaves for guarding. The first-order humans in the world of endless plains have very weak talents, far inferior to us blue star humans. Each of us has great potential. We would rather lose a little more now than die easily. Yuya's hand speed was very fast, and soon the public screen was occupied by his posts one after another. Gongping, who had been arguing all the time, gradually became quiet. Very silly and naive, who is this? Here to tell you how to do things? I have an S level, waste utilization, and I don't even say a word. Yuyi was too lazy to compete with such a bully, so without saying anything, he directly sent a screenshot of the system gold coins to the group. Millions of deposits. It directly blinded everyone's eyes. As if time stood still, no one spoke in the noisy group for a full minute. Even, very silly and naive, stopped talking. This old man who was blaming the sky and the earth and blaming the air instantly became mute under the screenshot of 1 million gold coins. This time he didn't insist that it was from the P picture. The Sugan system currently does not have such a deceptive function. In its view, this is a complete waste of computing power. Of course, it's not that the Sugan system can't do it, it just means that you have to install various plugins to obtain higher permissions. In other words, you have to pay more. Therefore, no one doubted the authenticity of this picture. The words F***K and 666 in various fonts instantly appeared on the public screen. The group that had been quarrelsome with each other just now had changed into it became peaceful. Little farmer in the mountains, hug the boss. Now that the boss has spoken, you should do whatever you want. I will be the first to support you. Cute-faced thief, cry, I'm still building toilets in my territory, and I'm already a millionaire. Sad relationship, damn, boss, look at me, I made a deal with you. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, have you seen that someone is afraid to fart now? Very silly and naive, Ikuya Hano, starting from today, please recognize, this is my eldest brother. I don't obey anyone in the group, so I obey my elder brother. This, silly and naive, attitude turned completely 180 degrees, and his ability to stretch and bend was jaw-dropping, making all the players who peeked at the screen have their jaws dropped. That sentence is indeed correct, shameless people are invincible. Chapter 26, How to Give Orders and Survive the First Invasion. The most difficult person in the group, very stupid and naive, completely bowed his head, which meant that Yuya's authority and voice in this small group of 500 people were officially established. Although this authority only relies on a screenshot of $1 million deposit, it is not particularly reliable. But just like the online games I played in my previous life, most people are better at following the crowd and obeying orders than giving orders. Many times, everyone needs a leader as the backbone. With this in mind, Yuyi continued to type messages on the public screen. Ikuya Hano, if you want to buy a second-level warrior slave or other slave, you can go to this coordinate to buy it. I can provide part of the loan, as long as I sign an agreement with Sugan System. Later, Yuya sent a sign in the group. This was a signal from Kuda, the wild boar lord who was doing business with his time and space tavern. Ikuya Hano, I understand that this plane was originally a small plane occupied by humans. It was named Tianquan Plane. When it was occupied, the population was still hundreds of millions. After being occupied by a group of wild boars across dimensions 30 years ago, there are only about 30 million human slaves left. If you want to end up like this, just keep arguing endlessly. Ikuya Hano, oh, that's right. Our opponent this time, the Zerg, never needs slaves. All creatures captured by them will be stored as food, either for parasitism or reproduction. After Yuya cited the example of Tianquan Plane, the group's call for a joint fight against the enemy became louder and louder. A big boss with $1 million deposit is willing to grant loans to other lords to purchase second-level warriors. Who would be unhappy? Although these lords have carried a large debt, Yuya supports and encourages the use of resources from all planes to repay the debt. According to the contract of the Dawn Alliance, if the lords completely repay the loan, the purchased second-level warrior slaves and the valuable things in the territory will belong to Yuya. Of course, Yuya's loan is still risky. If these lords die in the invasion 3 days later and the territory is completely destroyed by the Zerg, then the money will not be recovered. For Yuya, the money was just like winning a lottery ticket. Even if he lost it, he wouldn't feel particularly distressed. As long as Bob's daily specials are there, items worth millions of gold coins will continue to be added to the account. But if it can be used to exchange for the lives of some small lords, Yuyi feels that this kind of investment is still a good deal. Ikuya Hano, when the lord who borrows a loan from me encounters the Zerg that cannot resist, he can call me for help from the Time and Space Tavern. I will send people in order according to the time of calling for help. With the teleport hall, as long as Yuya has the other party's coordinates, he can locate and teleport there. As long as he sets the round trip, when the time is up, he can automatically teleport the person back to Yuya's own plane. With such a powerful ability, no wonder the teleport hall is so expensive. The group started a discussion again, but this time it was to better ensure the survival of all 497 players in the group. Soon, everyone was divided into 5 groups, and the 500 people were divided into 5 groups. Each group had several leaders to organize and coordinate the response. After the Zerg invasion, in addition to the warriors who defended their territories, there were also specially formed warriors. The patrol team is used for mobile support. Seeing that the plan to fight against the invasion was getting better and better, Yuyi finally breathed a sigh of relief. If nothing else happens, many of these groups around Klein Plain will experience a significant reduction in their numbers for the first time after the invasion of Insect Nest. No longer paying attention to the various detailed discussions in the group, Yuya opened the panel and processed the transactions initiated by many people in the group. The vast majority of them are applying for loans, while some lords are negotiating trade. For example, a female life player named Silkworm Jinang sent a fabric called Silk Armor, which can provide the effect of Physique +1, Charm +1, which is considered a good thing. Yuya directly bought the other party's inventory. Unfortunately, even though Silkworm Weaver Girl used her own talent to weave like crazy, she only had a few dozen pieces at present, which was still a little short of what Yuya wanted to have. Fortunately, there are still 3 days left, during which time she can replenish the goods. There were many similar outputs, and Yuyi didn't have time to check them all, so he collected them all. The original ore storage, which was not rich, has reached nearly 1,000 units after today's transaction. What surprised Yuya even more was that he also received 5 units of star stones to help people practice from a guy with the ID name, One Leaf Shichio. Looking at the other person's appearance, it was obvious that he had more in his hand. Sure enough, in a group of 500 people, everyone has a different start and has many adventures. As for weapons, the current output of daily life players is very low. Yuyi can collect as much as he can, and the rest will be made up from the system mall. There are indeed a lot of things in the Sugen system, but the price is really expensive. Yuya browsed the weapon interface, and each weapon has a limited purchase quantity. It's no wonder that since it is provided to humans in countless planes at the same time, it is naturally impossible for the Dawn system to open a certain resource to a certain person indefinitely. The quota is inevitable. Improve some. After dealing with all the miscellaneous things, Yuyi returned to his lord's cabin to rest with the little dragon cub in his arms. Thinking back on this whole day, Yuyi had trouble sleeping. Since he decided to expose his savings, he decided not to allow other players to enter his plane through the Time and Space Tavern. This is a guarantee for his own safety. The only people who can enter and leave Yuno's territory are slaves who can never harm the Lord. These slaves all have the imprints left by the Dawn system and cannot be violated. In this way, if you want to invade your own plane, you can only do it like the wild boar invasion of Tianquan Plain. After mastering the coordinates of the plane, you can then spend a lot of money to break through the interface barriers, and finally build a stable teleportation array. This is definitely not something that today's players can do. By the time other players in the group could carry out plane invasions, Yuya had already built his plane into a place filled with powerful players and extraordinary buildings. Therefore, Yuyi is not worried about any crisis that the exposure of these million savings will bring to him. In the last 3 days of the Zerg invasion, Yuyi obviously wanted to apply his talent, architectural mutation, to war buildings to make them even more powerful. The one-time purchase of more than 10 kinds of first-level war buildings made Yuya a little dazzled. After careful consideration, he decided to leave tomorrow's building mutation talent to the first-level Arrow Tower. There are also higher-level building scrolls in the Dawn system, but in addition to money, the more important thing to buy is merit points. And by resisting the first wave of war 3 days later, you can gain a lot of merit points. When the time comes, he will try to buy higher-level buildings and carry out mutations. What kind of mutated extraordinary buildings can he harvest by then? With sweet dreams in mind, Yuyi fell into sleep holding the little dragon cub. Chapter 27 Preparation Before War, The Troubles of the Rich. A brand new day. I don't know if it was because there were only 3 days left before the invasion, but there was a rare lack of people in the group. Everyone began to frantically use resources to build buildings. With yesterday's grouping, everyone started working in an orderly manner. Many warriors have used the recruitment function of the Time and Space Tavern to arrive at the territory to be guarded 3 days in advance. Some of them have the hunter profession and have begun to install various traps around the territory, and some are summoners. By arranging the summoning ritual in advance, even if you are a warrior, you can work hard to collect more resources. Yuyi felt much more relaxed. After he had someone under his command, he informed Mu Zhong that there would be a Zerg invasion in 3 days and stopped taking care of it. Although Mu Zhong didn't know how his lord got the news, he still arranged for the 100 people. Cut down trees when they should, plant spiritual valleys when they should, dig traps when they should, and the whole territory was in order. When the Tianquan Plain was not invaded, Mu Zhong had never heard of the concept of Zerg. It wasn't until he was invaded by the orcs that he heard many stories about the endless plains from the mouths of these wild boars. Only then did he realize that the world was much bigger than the Tianquan people thought. In his opinion, those ferocious-looking wild boars were terrifying enough, and the race that could make them fearful must also be extremely terrifying, so he did not dare to neglect Yu Ye's orders. Mu Zhong, who worked hard, also informed Wu Lu and others of the news, and the 5 second-level commanders couldn't help but worry. Wu Lu pulled up her long hair and tied it into a ponytail. Her face is ordinary, and her wheat-colored arms are covered with muscles. Anyone who knows her knows that these arms, which are not strong, can draw a giant bow similar to her human body size. As an archer, whose strength exceeds 20 attribute points, it is definitely not a joke. A punch like this will definitely make Yu Yi cry for a long time. At this moment, she frowned, and she was obviously troubled by the enemies in her current territory. I don't know how the little master knew the news, but the opponent was the Zerg that all the wild boars were afraid of. He didn't look nervous at all. Looks like that. Song Anjia patted the newly assembled wooden table. Although he was lean, his eyes were wide-eyed at the moment. Even if I risk my life, Old Song will never let the little lord get hurt at all. I, Old Song, have been here since I was born. Even a slave has never had a full meal. But on the first day I came to this territory, I ate spiritual rice that I couldn't even imagine. Such a good lord must not die at the hands of the Zerg. Fan Shi and Gao Chao nodded in unison. Gao Chao thought for a while and finally couldn't help but said, "And haven't you noticed? The star power in this plane is much higher than that in the Tianquan plane. If it lasts for a long time, living here, we can not only heal from our wounds, but we may not be able to reach a higher level in the future. Even if it's not for the Lord, it's for ourselves, we still have to keep this territory." Fan Shi smiled naively, "I don't have so many new ideas. I just hope that as the territory expands in the future, more manpower will be needed. Our Lord can also bring more Tianquan people from Kuta. Bring the old B************** D here." Mu Zhong looked around the 4 people with great satisfaction. They were all subordinates of the wild boar Kuta, but they did not see each other very often. After this heart-to-heart talk, the 4 people also got closer to each other. Mu Zhong's sonorous voice rang out in the small wooden house, and he said loudly, "Since we all have the consciousness to dedicate ourselves to the territory in our little master, let's think carefully about how to fight the next battle." Yu Yi had no idea that his 5 capable men were secretly having a meeting. He only knew that if he couldn't survive this invasion, their group would definitely be wiped out. What he should worry about is how to survive several rounds of attacks and how to get a higher evaluation. Yu Yi took a walk and came to Bob's Time and Space Tavern, and took a look at today's special. Well, it is still the rumored Tears of Amber. A wine that was so expensive that he wanted to drink it but didn't dare. He sighed and hung up the wine at the Time and Space Tavern again. In just an instant, a new amount of +1 358,000 gold coins was credited to the account. Being able to buy at the same price twice in a row means that today's buyer and yesterday's buyer seem to be the same person. It's great to have money. You can buy amber tears and drink it. Yu Yi sighed and took a look at it. He spent a long time yesterday and even went out to lend money, and finally reduced the balance by half. This suddenly increased by more than 1 million, which is equivalent to what he spent yesterday than what he earned. Hey, I can't spend the money I want. Is this the trouble of rich people? Yu Yi passed by the bulletin board in annoyance, picked up the knocked-out hair and threw it to a certain citizen aside. He glanced up and down at the bulletin board, which was constantly losing durability, and touched his chin. At the beginning, he was worried that a wild boar would be difficult to deal with. But now he has 5 second-level men under his command, little wild boars, which is ridiculous. As long as it comes, it will take the initiative to add food to our territory. Yu Yi, who hadn't eaten pork for a long time, swallowed his saliva. When he thought of Blue Star, those fat and thin, square crystal braised pork, he felt his saliva secrete involuntarily. Each piece was crystal clear, as if it were a carefully carved red jade. The sweet taste bloomed on the tongue when it was put into the mouth. Thinking back to the feeling at that time, Yuya couldn't help it. No. Who said, the waiting bulletin board is a weird building? This is obviously a god-level building. In this plane where there is nothing, it is simply a big treasure sent from the sky. To be honest, after so many days, Yuya has never known how these rabbits came out of the surroundings. He only saw this thing at first glance. As soon as he appeared, he rushed straight to the bulletin board without any care. It's like this extraordinary architectural power is some kind of causal ability that can ignore the distance of time and space, ensuring that a rabbit will rush over every day and a wild boar every week. Thinking about it this way, isn't this building quite strong? Yi touched his chin, feeling that his ability to comfort himself was getting stronger. He rubbed his little hands, and then used his innate ability on a tower in front of him. Suddenly, the light came on. The light spots around the wooden arrow tower in front of him flashed, and finally it suddenly grew a lot higher in front of Yi. The original window design was more scientific. Although the overall structure below was still wooden, there was a circle of bricks and stones to reinforce the bottom of the arrow tower and make it more stable. A small wooden door is opened at the rear, allowing anyone to come in and out at will. Yi was a little disappointed when he didn't see the orange light, but he still clicked on the properties of the building in front of him. Chapter 28, Wind Arrow Tower and Pea Shooter. Building name, Gale Arrow Tower, Mutation +1. Building level, Level 1. Building quality, Brave. Building life, 1000 plus 400. Building materials required, 250 units of wood, 50 units of ore. Building function, 1 investment of 1 unit of wood can produce 3 wind arrows. Each wind arrow can be shot through the 3 shooting ports on the arrow tower. A single arrow can cause 5100 damage. Plus 30 points of physical damage, and comes with armor breaking effect. Accuracy depends on shooter. Shooting range is 1200 units. Newly added, level 21 wind arrow tower can store up to 1000 plus 500 wind arrows. Newly added, 3 gusts of wind arrows are equipped with wind-attributed star power magic patterns. When 200 gusts of wind arrows are shot in total on the local battlefield, a level 1 spell, Wind Blade, will be triggered. When 500 gusts of wind are shot in total on the local battlefield. When arrows are fired, a level 2 spell, Wind Dance, will be triggered. When a total of 1000 wind arrows are fired on the local battlefield, a level 2 spell, Howling Wind, will be triggered. This mutation can only be said to be quite satisfactory. The level 1 arrow tower mutated into the level 1 wind arrow tower. In addition to increasing the basic damage of each arrow, it also increased the number of arrows stored in the arrow tower. 500 pieces, which enhances the battery life of the arrow tower. The most eye-catching thing is the new Effect 3, which triggers 3 spells based on the number of arrows fired. Among them, Wind Blade is a level 1 spell, Wind Dance, and Wind Howl are both level 2 spells, except for the former. It is a single level 2 spell, and the latter is a group level 2 spell. With Effect 3, the Gale Arrow Tower can match its Brave quality. With the existence of the level 1 Wind Arrow Tower, Yuya's sense of security has improved slightly, but not much. After all, I haven't fought it before. Just look at the Zerg illustrations and videos in the Dawn system. Who knows if I can beat it? Therefore, the more extraordinary buildings for defense and war, the better. Thinking of this, Yuya walked towards Dave's planting farm. Last time Dave created Pea Shooter, a spiritual plant that can be used as a weapon. Yuya naturally wanted to care about Dave's research on mutant plants. Before he could reach it, he found a circle of slaves surrounding the farm. They were all members of the planting team and were looking into the farm. Yuya curiously grabbed a person and asked, "What happened inside?" The skinny slave turned around and saw that it was Yuyi. He quickly knelt down and said in unskilled Chinese, "Report to the Lord. Farmer Dave developed a new mutant plant today. Everyone is watching." For these slaves, it was a new mutant plant. For Yuya, who had seen the seed panel a long time ago, he naturally knew that this was the Pea Shooter that had been successfully developed. Yuya's face suddenly brightened, and he became interested. He pushed the crowd of onlookers away and walked inside. The soil that was originally planted with sunflowers is now filled with mature new plants. There are 2 young leaves growing under this plant, and a root that is neither thick nor thin supports a round nozzle. The plant has 2 big black round eyes and a handful of cute silly hairs on its head. Isn't this the pea shooter? Was it actually done by Dave? Moreover, Yuya hasn't been to Dave's planting farm for a while, so this area has changed a lot. Outside the planting farm surrounded by sword thorn fence, I don't know when a large area of level 1 sunflowers appeared, and outside the sunflowers, there was a circle of pea shooters, all of which were open. The cute big eyes absorb the solar energy coming from behind. This energy can not only promote the growth of seedlings, but is also very useful for mature level 1 pea shooter. After all, this is a different world, not a game. The pea shooter in the game can shoot out pea bullets continuously, as if it will never run out of energy. But as an alien version of pea shooter, every bullet needs to consume star power, which means that once these first-level spiritual plants consume all their star power, they will stop working completely. So how to solve this problem? Or keep feeding star stones to these first-level spiritual plants so that they can continue to spray bullets after digesting them. But it doesn't need to be so difficult in Dave's planting farm. The solar energy, produced by sunflower, itself is the best energy supplement for pea shooter. This kind of spiritual plant produces sunlight points. Not only useful for pea shooter, but also other mutant plants. In surprise, Yuya quickly opened the attribute panel to view the attributes of pea shooter. Name, pea shooter. Race, spirit plant. Attribute, wood. Level, level 1. Status, can be planted. HP, 150 out of 150. Strength, 7. Spirit, 6. Agility, 3. Physique, 7. Charm, 5. Lucky, 3. Racial talent, 1 pea shot. When encountering an enemy unit, absorb the spiritual power in the air every 5 seconds to condense a pea bullet and shoot it straight towards the enemy, within an attack distance of 800 units. Each bullet causes 1050 points of damage to the enemy. 2 Undead Nemesis. The damage of each pea bullet to all undead creatures will be randomly multiplied by 2 to 5 times, and the wood attribute, woodification, effect will be added. Woodification. The wood attribute energy invades the caused wound and spreads to the surrounding flesh and blood to form a wooden structure. And nearly 100 of these pea shooters have been planted outside Dave's planting farm. Nearly 100 pea shooters participated in the battle together. This kind of fire suppression was very powerful, but correspondingly, the star stones consumed by this kind of consumption were also huge. It seems that finding a star stone mine is also something that needs to be put on the agenda. Yuya made some plans in his mind, and suddenly he was sure that his mature pea shooter could be sold as a product. I believe that with the help of this product, it will be easier for others in the group to get through the first wave of aggression. Chapter 29. Since you have already taken out a loan, let's take out more loans. Yuyi looked at this panel and was surprised and happy. Even though pea shooter was a level 1 spiritual plant, none of the statistics were above 10 points, which seemed very weak. But these plants have miraculous effects when fighting against the undead. Although Yuno is about to face the Zerg, these pea shooters can still provide strong assistance. The most important thing is, after Yuno confirmed to Dave, although these pea shooters need to be matured in a special building, Dave's planting farm, using solar energy to catalyze their maturity, they can be transplanted after they are completely mature. Go around the territory. If a pea shooter was really built around the territory, it would be equivalent to creating a new layer of defense for Yuno. Moreover, these plants can also be sold to small lords who are fighting against the dangerous situation of the Zerg. Anyway, they are all in debt, so they are not afraid of this. Sure enough, these mysterious NPCs bound to mutated buildings are Yuno's biggest cheats. He quickly commanded these slaves to plant a large number of pea shooters harvested first around the Arrow Tower and Mage Tower. Yuya watched Dave sowing mysterious seeds in the fields again, and took out a golden sunflower disc from a wooden box, crushed it and mixed it in the land of several surrounding units. These flower discs fall off automatically after the flowering period of sunflower. There are a large number of sunflower seeds in the flower discs, and the flower discs become the best nutrients for planting. Under the influence of the golden flower disc, soon the new pea shooter seedlings have poked out of the soil. Although this planting method is completely different from that of Druid, it has a similar growth rate. Looking at this effort, once the entire box of golden flower trays harvested yesterday is used up, Yuya will be able to harvest pea shooters planted all around the territory. Security plus 100. Yuya smiled happily, then changed his mind, pointed the virtual screen at a sleeping pea shooter with his eyes closed, pressed the screenshot button, Zinxenran uploaded it to the group, and sent a message by the way. Ikuya Hano, I got a new gadget. The first level spiritual plant, pea shooter, will be on sale tomorrow, at a conscientious price, no deception, 15 gold coins/plant. The supply is limited, first come first served. Sad relationship, damn it. It's really Plants vs Zombies. I heard that the human camp in the Endless Plane world has the deadly enemy, Death Abyss, which is full of undead. This plant can defeat the undead. Little farmer in the mountains, screaming, boss. Look at me. Plants and other things are perfect for druids. If my territory can be filled with pea shooters, I won't need a single combat worker. Stay home. Secretly smell my smelly feet downstairs, this wave, I would like to call it Druid's Epic Enhancement. Wish you a happy Qingming festival, woohoo, I want it so much. Unfortunately, I have already borrowed money from the boss to buy a second-level warrior slave. Wish you a happy Qingming festival, family, who knows. Several other life players and I were hired from the Time and Space Tavern, as combat workers, to other life player territories to guard the house together. As a result, at first glance, hey. Everyone is a loner, and they all follow a second-level slave. Saint Halo, lone +1. Very stupid and naive, +2 for lenders. Why don't the elder brother give the younger brother 2 plants to play with? Cute, well-behaved, acting cute. Your wife has a leak in the middle of the night, +3 for lenders. Brother Tianjin, please be normal, otherwise I will regret arguing with her for 2 days. Cute-faced thief, squints and smiles, is there any difference between owing 5,000 and owing 10,000? Why don't you bite the bullet and just buy it? And just when Yuya was thinking about how to sell spiritual plants like pea shooter, in the group, the main battlefield of this invasion, Klein Plain, was already being prepared. In the boundless void, a series of 7 behemoths stand outside the space barrier of Klein Plain. These 7 existences that look like Alliance starships are indeed extraordinary buildings called Zerg Brood. To say it is an extraordinary building is rather to say it is a strange combination of life and architecture. This is also a characteristic of the Zerg's extraordinary architecture. In every nest, there is a queen mother who commands the whole clan. The 7 brood nests mean that there are 7 different Zerg armies looming outside the Klein Plain. Although these huge extraordinary buildings are all called brood nests, they are based on the mother nests that host them. The different characteristics of the Emperor have evolved into completely different appearances. Some are like a pirate ship, with the front tip tilted back and straight black tubular muscles rising into the sky, like masts, covered with layers of fungus blankets that look like sails. The fur on the fungus blankets, the velvet thread, seem to be absorbing the energy floating in the void with every breath, somewhat like the solar panels that humans had invented. Under the mast, void Zerg of various shapes sat quietly on the deck of the pirate ship, stacked one on top of another. They did not complain at all because of the crowding, but made use of every bit of space. Some are like jellyfish, with thick strips of flesh hanging down like willow branches. Under each strip of meat are tied different extraordinary buildings, some are incubators, and some are genes, transformation room, some of which can't be seen at all. You can only see the insect eggs being transported from the top of the jellyfish's umbrella to the bottom like a meat strip channel, and then the terrifying insectoids that can walk in the void are coming from below. Walked out of the cabin. Some are regular flesh-shaped balls. The surface of the ball is wrapped by a hard carapace, with long protruding spines distributed one after another on it. It looks like a sea urchin from a distance, but it looks like a sea urchin. Far more ferocious and terrifying than sea urchins. In the center of the flesh ball that opens and closes, there are layers of sharp teeth that rotate in a spiral shape, like a kaleidoscope. These teeth will change patterns anytime and anywhere. Among these patterns, there are many insect-like creatures clinging to them and living on them, walking on them as if they were on flat ground without being scratched by the sharp teeth. The human camp is not without equipment outside the Klein Plain. Hexagonal prisms are laid layer by layer outside the entire space barrier. Behind these prisms is a huge cold white metal equipment. Such metal equipment is placed at regular intervals. It is this metal equipment one after another that wraps up the entire space barrier of Klein Plain, like a bubble. These devices are also an extraordinary building called Glory-class Shield Generator Type 5. Each shield generator is a masterpiece created by the machinist profession. It can be exempted from all powers below the brilliance level within a certain range, and brilliance corresponds to level 8. To wrap the entire Klein Plain with such a number of Glory-class Shield Generator V-type, one can imagine the amount of materials and resources consumed. In addition to a large number of hexagonal prisms produced by shield generators, dozens of void starships are parked in mid-air, and strong men exuding powerful auras are surrounding the starships. Directly below the confrontation between the two parties, a completely deserted superplane is slowly unfolding. The Plane Will and the World Tree are guiding both sides to replenish their forces in an orderly manner. According to the contracts between Plane Will and World Tree and many peak ethnic groups, in order to protect the ecology of the explored planes, Plane Will help the two or more parties fighting the peak ethnic group to find the nearby spacetime curve in advance. A desolate plain suitable for use as a battlefield. All battles will take place in this desolate plain. Of course, the Dawn system's transfer of enemy troops to other small planes through the power of time and space is not considered cheating, because the human lords of those small planes are also counted. The camp of the Human Alliance belongs to the reinforcements. But these reinforcements must also abide by the regulations. No matter whether these small groups of enemy troops are teleported away, regardless of victory or defeat, when the wartime comes, the Dawn system will transmit them back to the battlefield again. At this moment, above this superplane that is used as a battlefield, a huge countdown is slowly running. There are less than 3 days left before the official start of the war. At the same time, a completely unimaginable scene like this was suddenly exposed to all P-class citizens of Klein Plain, in the form of a live broadcast. This was the first time that a large-scale war live broadcast was shown to ordinary audiences. This is equivalent to practicing the theme of version 14.0, New Human Observation Record. There is no doubt that this bold move immediately caused a major response. Chapter 30 P-Class Citizens of Klein's Plain. Since the Dawn system's announcement about the start of the Klein Plain War, the light network of Klein Plain has exploded. A large number of netizens logged into major websites through optical computers to pay attention to the war. Before version 14.0, New Human Observation Record, wars naturally broke out in Klein Plain, and not just once or twice. According to statistics, hundreds of wars, large and small, occurred during version 13.0 alone, and these wars sometimes even lasted for years. But before this, the Human Alliance would not directly expose the cruelty of war to citizens such as P, and let them live through war after war in peaceful days. Even if they die, they may not know it. Countless battles had broken out outside the Klein Plain, and countless extraordinary people had sacrificed their lives for them. And 14.0, New Human Observation Record, does not only refer to all the blue star people who have traveled through time, but also to the extraordinary beings who are not paid attention to in the local area. In the eyes of citizens such as P, there is no doubt that they are also new humanity. It is obviously a highly information-based world, but the world of extraordinary people seems to be invisible from the lives of ordinary people. This is an intentional, information cocoon that allows all citizens such as P to live in the entertainment they want to watch. Games and other joyful interfaces, but as for the terrible war, that is the matter of the extraordinary ones. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. This principle is not only found in Blue Star, but also in the boundless plane world. But is it really a good thing to completely isolate these P-class citizens from such a cruel world? Not only some extraordinary people, but also some forerunners among citizens such as P are dissatisfied with the existence of the information cocoon room. Version 14.0 has taken the initiative to start a live broadcast craze for extraordinary people to build extraordinary territories, and in just a few days, a live broadcast about a real war will begin. You can imagine how much attention this live broadcast received. Even the Dawn system specifically enhanced the signal of Klein Plane, allowing the more distant planes governed by the Human Alliance to broadcast this war. Even though the war hasn't completely started yet, the popularity of the live broadcast room has exceeded 100 billion, and it is still gaining popularity like crazy. Damn, this is the first time I see so many people in the live broadcast room. How to post this barrage? Since no one will see it, I will secretly change the size anywhere on the public screen. Upstairs, who said you can't see it? No sketching is allowed in the comments section. Is that the mother nest of the Zerg? How can each one be completely different, but still look exactly the same? Brother, are you comparing the aesthetics of the human race with the aesthetics of the bugs? You must know that in the eyes of those bugs, you are just a pile of nutrients, and they still care about your beauty and ugliness? Bai Xiao just entered this live broadcast room with hundreds of billions of hits and was immediately stuck out. The light brain of Dawn system is stuck in Tianji. In the past, this was definitely a hot search topic, but today, it is not even a splash. Bai Xiao had no choice but to return to the live broadcast room of Ikuya Hano, and with a group of water friends who were bragging in the live broadcast room, they were ready to wait quietly for the launch of Ikuya Hano today. The greatest effect of the Dawn system should be well known to everyone, and that is to use time and space technology to teleport small groups of enemy troops on the front line of the battlefield in batches to all nearby small lords who are preparing to build territories. They provide a source of combat merit and can also relieve the pressure on the front line. It can be said that they serve multiple purposes. As one of the unexplored planes within the 5 categories of time and space nodes, Yuya is one of the places where the Klein Plane front line will be teleported this time. The audience gathered in this live broadcast room were basically unable to squeeze into the warm-up live broadcast of the war scene, so they came to Ikuya Hano, who had seen it before. Some of them wonder how the world's people will survive this wave of invasion. Many people have also begun to wonder, as a summoner of the European Emperor, Ikuya Hano, who has a dragon cub at the beginning, how many waves of attacks can he survive by relying on his summoned dragon cubs? This is the reason why, although there is no anchor in the live broadcast room yet, there are already many people gathered in the live broadcast room. Can anyone help explain why this invasion war requires a dedicated battlefield? For the invasion, would it be better to directly descend to the Klein Plane body? Barrage King saw this question and beat his hands back and forth in the photons. This is a contract witnessed by the plane will and the world tree, and no peak group can violate it. As for when the contract was signed, it should have been signed by the ancient humans. Anyway, I don't seem to have seen any relevant information. Anyway, before the Human Alliance was officially established, this contract was already being used in the entire explored plane. After seeing Barrage King's long comment, the water buddy who just asked the question immediately made a grateful expression and continued diving. Regarding the detailed rules of this war, we have to wait until the time comes and both sides enter that super huge desolate plane together to be revealed. There is the slaughtering side mode, which means that the war is considered over only when the other party participating in the war, or a party that many people are fighting for, is completely dead. There is hegemony mode, which means that in a certain plane, several forces participating in the war have to be created from scratch. In the end, the outcome is determined by the size of the territory that eventually occupies the war plane. There are other forms of war such as death match mode, arena mode, and so on. How to choose these modes specifically depends on random selection. It will only be known when the superplane war breaks out and both sides choose the plane conditions. Barrage King is no exception at all, and will supplement the relevant information that has not been completed. And amid such popular barrages, the live broadcast room screen flashed, and it was finally time to open the Ikuya Hano live broadcast room screen again. Bai Xiao looked intently at the main screen, and suddenly his face froze. What is this? If she remembers correctly, it hasn't been more than 24 hours since the last live broadcast, right? Who can tell her what exactly this anchor did to achieve such a big change in such a short period of time? Chapter 31. When will this anchor sign the contract? Today's live broadcast began to be projected on the screen in the live broadcast room. As soon as the scene entered, a close-up shot was given on the ground. What is this? I want to watch the handsome anchor guy. Why do you want to watch it for me? This lens of Shuguang's system was given a 0 score. The protagonist is not even in the frame yet. As soon as the broadcast started, there were several barrages floating on the screen. As the king of barrages, king of barrage, naturally would not be carried away by such a few barrages, but carefully observed this strange plant. 2 young leaves on the left and 1 on the right, and a rhizome that is neither thick nor thin, support a round nozzle. The 2 big black round eyes look a bit sloppy, occupying the back end of the nozzle, and there are also with a little cute fur on his head. What kind of weird-looking plant is this? Never seen it. In fact, Pea Shooter has already appeared once in the live broadcast room. At that time, Yuya happened to be peeping at NPC Dave sowing seeds. Those seeds were Pea Shooter. The focus of the live broadcast room at that time was not on this plant. Everyone is discussing why this anchor has a population just a few days after the construction of the extraordinary territory. At that time, the Barrage King had a high-level discussion and finally determined that this anchor named Ikuya Hano has a god-level summoning talent. Whether it was the little dragon cub or the 2 people who appeared in the live broadcast at that time, they were all existences summoned by Yu Yi. Well, after seeing this ugly and cute spiritual plant with stupid hair on its head, Barrage King naturally thought of this thing. No matter what its function is, it must be the anchor's new summon. Just when the Barrage King was about to type and upload his findings to the public screen, he found that someone had already posted the barrage with quick eyes and hands. Ouch, my hands are pretty fast. Barrage King took a special look at this person's ID. Newbies should humbly ask for advice, and felt that he looked familiar, as if he had chatted in the live broadcast room before. He recalled it a little bit, and it seemed that every time he posted a barrage, the ID would appear in the subsequent comments, so he had some memory. However, this person's behavior really fits his own ID. I learned knowledge points from Danmaku King. Aren't you applying what you learned now? Mature viewers will learn to answer questions on their own. He is indeed a teachable boy. Barrage King nodded, stopped his hands that were about to use the virtual keyboard in the mist, and continued to watch the live broadcast. I don't know if it was because of complaints about the camera problem, but feedback was received in the background. The lens provided by the Sugan system quickly zoomed in, and after taking a clear picture of the entire first-order spiritual plant, the camera then lifted up, and then suddenly zoom out. Pretty. The Barrage King couldn't help but congratulate him and clapped his hands. He gave full marks to this wave of mirror movement. Cut in from a small corner and give a large panorama. This is equivalent to hiding the camera at the beginning, and then using the camera to make the whole scene suddenly appear in front of the audience with a wide angle of view. This sense of impact brings shock to the picture. If the audience of the first-level spirit plants didn't feel much after watching it, but when the hair on the top of their head was brushed together and the spiritual plants resting with their eyes closed, neatly surrounding the entire extraordinary territory, this scene was really shocking. There are sunflowers scattered around these pea shooters, and they are constantly harvesting the sun's energy and pouring it into the pea shooters around them, accumulating strength for the Zerg invasion in 3 days. There were obviously more than one shocked audience in the live broadcast room. When this scene appeared, a large wave of barrage suddenly broke out. Is this the same live broadcast I watched yesterday? The entire territory was completely different in an instant. Isn't it true that there is strength in numbers? If other lords want to plant such a large number of level 1 spiritual plants overnight, the Gon Emperor might be able to do it by exploding 100 livers. Am I the only one who is curious about what these spiritual plants are used for? Speaking of which, our anchor has completely ed the spiritual plants, right? He even reached out to poke the sword thorn with his finger before. What did I miss when I stabbed the sword thorn hard? Hey, I saw that there are new viewers upstairs, squinting and laughing. If someone records the screen, go find it and play it back yourself. Ah, these spiritual plants are so cute. I think I should buy one and take it home for adoption. Woohoo, but I just searched the Dawn Alliance Mall, and there are no plants of the same type for sale at all. Little sister, this is a spiritual plant summoned by the anchor with his own talent. I don't know which unknown plane it comes from. Of course, it is impossible to buy it from Shuguang Mall. The little sister, who seemed to be a shopaholic, quickly replied on the barrage, "Ah? When will this anchor sign the contract? How can I buy the output of his extraordinary territory? Hey, you have to wait for a while. If you want to break through the 30-round flow pool, you have to wait at least a month." While everyone was still shocked by this exaggerated sight, Barrage King quickly started a new round of analysis. With his extremely vicious eyes, he has already judged that these plants must be aggressive spiritual plants. The reason why this anchor planted these plants around the territory is that he hopes that these plants can form fire suppression. Although Barrage King has never seen the power of this plant, but based on the outrageousness of this anchor in the past, he still cautiously gave it an above-average rating. Just as the Barrage King was sorting out this series of analysis and preparing to post it, a long barrage suddenly appeared in the live broadcast room. The content in it was almost the same as what the Barrage King had prepared. The King of Barrage suddenly became angry and looked at the long barrage ID. It was that one again: rookies should humbly ask for advice. After being robbed of barrage twice, Barrage King's mentality was no longer as relaxed as before, but he felt a sense of crisis. Seeing that rookies should humbly ask for advice, who has received a lot of praise on the public screen, Barrage King's sense of urgency is even greater. Originally, he was the only one to receive this kind of treatment in this live broadcast room. Many people even took the initiative to add him as friends after reading his analysis. Even those who didn't add friends would be stingy about paying attention. In just a few days, the number of fans of Barrage King increased by nearly 200. He has a keen sense of the popularity trend in this live broadcast room. Maybe he can take advantage of this anchor's popularity and increase his fans? Although the content of this live broadcast room is indeed interesting, this is the important reason why Barrage King always pays attention to the live broadcast. In fact, these analyses are quite simple to begin with. Anyone can get this information as long as they are willing to use their brains, pay more attention to observation, and organize information. But before, the Danmaku King was the only one doing this, so he was quite proud. This was the first time he experienced the joy of being called a boss in the barrage. Even looking at these fans, he came up with the idea of creating a self-media to specifically explain Ikuya Hano's live broadcast. This can not only drive traffic to Ikuya Hano, but is also very helpful for him to manage his own account. However, now a competitor has appeared. Barrage King saw this person's thoughts with his venomous eyes, which probably coincided with his own. How many days has it been? How many viewers is this? Doesn't this prove that this anchor is really popular? The Barrage King did not relax at all. He opened his eyes wide and began to stare closely at the live broadcast screen, refusing to let go of any details. He had an imaginary enemy in his mind. The anchor in the live broadcast room is actively preparing for war and preparing to deal with the invasion of the enemy camp. He, Barrage King, also wants to fight a silent barrage war. Chapter 32 Verification Results. There is a small problem. Barrage King, no one knows the determination he makes in private. Although he didn't post it in the barrage, he kept the ID "rookies should humbly ask for advice" in his heart. But Bai Xiao was really in trouble. Early this morning, her superior, Mike, called her over, looking a little serious. "Bai Xiao, I heard that you have a very good anchor this time." "Yes, that's the anchor you mentioned before who took the initiative to P******K the sword thorn." Bai Xiao, who was originally confused, heard the sensitive word sword thorn and guessed why Mike did this. He quietly found her. Apparently, she was handed over to Klein University last time. The identification result was obtained by Professor Rue-senpai. Moreover, judging from Mike's excited heart and trembling hands, the result this time must be for the better. As expected, he quickly came forward with a mysterious look on his face and said, "After verification by the experts and professors I found, sword thorns can stab people to gain skills. Such outrageous rumors are actually really effective." The professor named Derek said that this may be some kind of hidden rule recognized by the will of the plane. It's just that this plant is too common, and the pain of being pricked is unbearable. It's never been discovered. When Mike said this, he was still a little embarrassed. After all, the human alliance has so many planes and a large population, so someone must have accidentally acquired skills in this way. However, such accidental cases will not attract attention at all. Even the person who acquires the skill will only think that it is his good luck. He never thought that being stabbed by sword thorn so many times is a routine to comprehend the skill, let alone it was impossible to find anyone to verify. It would be easier to find someone to verify other things, but having people stab the sword thorn over and over again. Isn't this the same as finding a random person on the street, slapping him, and then telling him that this is a test on how thick his skin is? Can anyone believe this outrageous reason? In other words, isn't this just looking for a beating? But the situation of Ikuya Hano is very special. It happened to meet the 14.0 version of New Human Observation Record. This version opened a large number of live broadcasts of extraordinary territory construction. And Yu realized it in front of everyone in the live broadcast room, which made the good guys try to imitate. Please believe that this generation of netizens, in Klein's plane alone, there are many P-class citizens who are idle and have nothing to do. As a result, this test triggered a series of subsequent events. All P-level citizens can stably master at least one skill through this method. Of course, it's possible for extraordinary people to theoretically do it. But some extraordinary people are thick-skinned, especially warriors and knights. They can't be broken by sword thorns at all, and the vast majority of extraordinary people don't have the talent for the first time. When awakening, the physique is greatly strengthened and the pain is not so severe, so the effect in the experiment of extraordinary people is not very satisfactory. Finally, according to calculations by Drake's expert team, only ordinary people with strength and physique below 5 points can comprehend the skills 100% stably. The rest depends on a certain amount of comprehension and luck. If Yu hears this, he will probably call it a fluke. His initial 6-dimensional values are all 9. Even though his attribute values are much higher than Bai Xiao, Yu is a genuine extraordinary person. Awakening with an A-level talent, his physical fitness has been greatly improved. For an ordinary person, an attribute value of 5 points is very normal. The 6 dimensions are all 9. Except for luck, which is a relatively high attribute and can also be boasted, the other data are really average. Because this is the value obtained by Yu after his extraordinary awakening. In a war-type profession, this kind of value is simply unsightly. After a war-type person awakens, several values must break through 10 to be barely enough. It is not impossible for some people with strong talents to directly reach 20 points in a certain attribute value after awakening. Therefore, it is absolutely right for the system to arrange the life department for Yuya. If Yu was able to comprehend the skill, it was considered a fluke, then if the little dragon cub also obtained the skill, it was simply because it had talent. Or is this a unique feature of the dragon race? Yuya didn't look at it for the past 2 days, letting it follow the slave to hit the tree, and it unexpectedly learned a skill called Rampage LV1. The name of this skill is simple and crude, and its use is even simpler and cruder. All you need to do is pass by without thinking. If Yu blocks in front, he may be knocked to pieces. After all, the little dragon cub has both strength and physique at the max level. If such a collision were to hit his chest with such force, it would be no joke. Back in Mike's office, Bai Xiao was dumbfounded. What that person named Ikuya Hano tried randomly and blindly actually turned out to be fruitful. This is a stable way to gain skills. You know, some extraordinary beings cannot obtain this skill now because they are already mature. As people grow, their attribute values naturally increase. Of course, the attribute values of a newborn baby and an adult are completely different. In other words, if human teenagers, who have not fully grown up yet, and whose strength and physique are below 5 points in youth, can be trained by pricking with sword thorns, then the future generation of the entire Federation can be trained. Everyone has this skill. And if we want to popularize it by then, priests, mechanics, and druids may be able to extract some of the factors in sword thorn that can promote skill comprehension, make them into vaccine-like medicines, and give them to all teenagers of the appropriate age. Use it, which not only reduces the pain, but also gains skills. In the boundless world, it is not particularly difficult to acquire skills, but equally, it is not a simple matter either. Like the original warriors, they practiced swordplay every day. Perhaps the straight thrust action was used too many times, and the hidden proficiency reached a certain level, and the will of the plane would be bestowed upon it to transform this proficiency. The speed is converted into a skill, which is not only easier to use, but also can exert more and more powerful and unimaginable power as the skill level grows. This is the most common way to acquire skills. But skills like pain blocking, mild paralysis immunity, and toughness are not as easy to obtain as direct stab. How can this kind of invisible and intangible skill direction be obtained through proficiency? It all depends on everyone's luck. But now, skills such as pain blocking, mild paralysis immunity, and toughness will become truly universal skills. You can imagine how great the benefits are. However, there was a slight problem with the declaration of the results of this research. Mike said with a wry smile. Chapter 33: Ownership Issues and Protection. After listening to Director Mike's words, Bai Xiao felt slightly uneasy. If it was just a trivial matter, Director Mike would not always speak with such an apologetic expression. When Professor Drake came to the conclusion, and when he didn't know when this speculation theory came out of the live broadcast practice, the ownership rights of the results were directly written in the name of their research team. Generally speaking, there is no problem with this. After all, Mike privately asked people from the research team to verify it, although Derek didn't know what purpose Mike had for asking him to verify it. It is also unclear how Mike, a backstage supervisor of the live broadcast department of the plane administration, knew about this seemingly outrageous conjecture. But with Derek's sense of scientific research, he felt that no one was involved in this research direction. Sure enough, after he searched for no relevant papers on the optical network, he immediately had the idea of grabbing the first release. Grabbing the first spot is still a relatively common operation in research. After all, the Alliance is so big, there are so many plain scientific research institutes, and there are countless people researching the same direction, so it often happens that the hard-earned scientific research results are given to other planes within a short period of time. People robbed it. Considering that this verification experiment is not difficult, and even school students can produce results, Derek doesn't know if Mike has also sent the guess about sword thorn to others. So, there was a rush to register. Afterwards, Professor Drake casually praised Director Mike, and then asked him to find more similar conjectures for him to verify. Naturally, he would not treat Mike badly when the time comes. If put in normal times, although there are problems with Professor Drake's approach, it will not cause any major problems. After all, they are the ones who finally came up with the experimental verification, and they have indeed contributed to this scientific research result. Mike just provided a simple guess, which is not a credit. But in fact, everyone knows very well that this conjecture is not simple at all. If you want to conduct similar experimental demonstrations, which laboratory can't do it? But has anyone else mentioned this conjecture? Normally, Mike would just pass it by vaguely. After all, he is not engaged in scientific research, and he is not very clear about this kind of first-time profit. Anyway, he can make a profit. But this thing is different. Mike's guess actually came from Bai Xiao, who saw the news from the barrage in the live broadcast room, and the person who actually practiced awakening in front of everyone was Ikuya Hano. That's right, a new contract amount has been added to the 14.0 version of New Human Observation Record. That is to protect the interests of all outsiders. If the alien allows the audience to obtain knowledge, technology, theory, etc. without authorizing the live broadcast, then once the knowledge, technology, theory spreads within the alliance, it will be regarded as unintentional leakage. The alien anchors who go out are entitled to receive part of the relevant remuneration. And this proportion of remuneration and profit is quite large. On the day of the incident, Yuya's live broadcast was unauthorized, so it fully met this condition. In other words, although Yuya knew nothing about this matter, his actions during the live broadcast benefited the alliance as a whole, so his share of the profits is indispensable. The introduction of this new regulation is actually to protect the rights and interests of the disadvantaged. After all, this is an unauthorized live broadcast. Even if it is coded and changed, it is a live broadcast without the consent of the person. From a certain perspective, this is very bad. But this is a different world, and even slaves are common, let alone this little problem. But at this moment, Derek has already declared this result. If Bai Xiao did not tell manager Mike about this conjecture, but Mike himself learned from the backstage live broadcast under his subordinates, then Mike must have just pretended to be deaf and dumb. Got through. After all, this live broadcaster named Ikuya Hano didn't even pass the 30 rounds of the traffic pool, which is the minimum contract requirement. He was completely transparent. He even took advantage of this wave of interests without the other party knowing at all. But there are real benefits to be gained from Professor Drake, which is the friendship of a transcendent. Of course, Mike wants to please him. No matter what Mike thinks, he feels that this matter has great potential. But in this matter, there happened to be Bai Xiao. This makes it a bit difficult for Mike to do his job. After all, Mike is not the only one who is familiar with the new regulations. All employees have specially organized to learn the relevant new policies. As one of the parties involved in this incident, Bai Xiao, if it is really revealed that Derek and Mike secretly embezzled the rights and interests that should belong to Ikuya Hano, then. Therefore, on the surface, Mike is explaining this operational error, but secretly wooing Bai Xiao is the theme of this conversation. After thinking clearly about the cause and effect of the whole thing, Bai Xiao suddenly looked serious. She didn't like Director Mike before, but she didn't expect that something like this would happen now. Although Supervisor Mike didn't say anything on the surface, what he said was that he wanted to take advantage of the profits, and he also used various methods to hint to Bai Xiao how huge the profits would be, and what would happen if it was done. She must have her share. Mike was extremely tactful in dealing with things. He laid out the whole matter. Although he had the position he wanted to express, there was no word that directly expressed his intention to join Bai Xiao in corruption. Even if you play all the recordings of the entire process to others, you won't be able to find any mistakes or omissions. Bai Xiao looked at Mike, who was ogling her across the way, and started her best trick of pretending to be stupid. She talked about the matter like a dumbass and didn't say a word about what Mike thought about making money together. Instead, Bai Xiao clung to Derek's illegal operation and expressed a resolute attitude towards pursuing the case, with a firm tone and awe-inspiring justice. This made Mike dumbfounded. It's really rare to find someone who is so insufferable. People who put money in front of them but don't take any of it deserve to live at the bottom of the world. Mike spat in his mind, but he had no choice but to follow the rules. The whole thing is actually very simple. It can be considered an operational error by Derek at most, and it won't go online. All he needs to do is slightly modify the settings he initially declared. But when he thought about the white money passing by in front of him, but not a bit of it belonged to him, Mike felt a trace of inexplicable resentment in his heart, and the target of the attack was none other than Bai, who was pretending to be stupid just now. On Akatsuki. On the other hand, Bai Xiao also knew that what he did would make Mike unhappy. As a P-class citizen, she has very upright views. Although her, Ikuya Hano, has not yet broken out of the 30-round traffic pool and has not officially signed a contract. But Bai Xiao has truly regarded this anchor as her own. She believes that it is impossible for a live broadcast room with such strength to fail to break out of the traffic pool. As the future manager of Ikuya Hano, she naturally has to protect all the rights and interests of her subordinates. Chapter 34. I want to have a big house. Yu Yi got up and stretched a lot, and then got out of bed with the little dragon cub in his arms. The little dragon cub had its big eyes blinking and seemed to be awake. As soon as he pushed them away, he saw the slave dormitory far away behind his lord's hut. At first, Yu Yi wanted them not to be so far away, and they could build it inside the sword thorn fence. Anyway, after his last collection, there are still a lot of sword thorn seeds, which can completely consume wood, expand the scope of the territory, and wrap the entire slave dormitory into his territory. However, this was unanimously opposed by the 5 commanders Mu Zhong, Wu Lu, Song Anjia, Fan Shi, and Gao Chao. Although we are in a different world, in the Tianquan plain, the idea of respecting elders and younger ones still has the core of ancient China. In their opinion, as a lord, Yu Yi's lord's cabin does not look luxurious and does not occupy a large area. As lowly slaves, they naturally can no longer snatch the lord's private space nearby. Therefore, they all consciously live on the periphery of the territory. Yu Yi raised his eyebrows. Of course he knew that his lord's cabin was still the most basic small dilapidated wooden house redeemed from the Shuguang system, but this was not because he wanted to be frugal. If possible, he also wants to give his lord's cabin a mutation. But since Bob's Daily Special Amber Tears was bought by the same person one after another with a large amount of gold coins, he has been unable to spend all his money in order to defend against the upcoming invasion of the Zerg camp. Yu Yi bought many extraordinary buildings at once. His talent was too late to mutate these buildings every day. How could he mutate his own cabin first? Is he such a person who wants to enjoy himself? He is, volume amplified, 100 times more confident, justified. He would not admit that if something went wrong with his architectural mutation, talent and a building like a stinky hut was created, he would probably die on the spot. Although the appearance of the Lord's cabin, given by the Dawn system is a little different, it is a genuine extraordinary building. Living in it every day, even if you don't practice, you can get a few or more than a dozen points of natural increase in star power. Originally, Yu Yi wanted to make use of it, but the words of Mu Zhong and others also reminded him that he was alone in the past, so he could do whatever he wanted, but with so many people, he had to be careful. As a lord, his house represents the face of the territory. With this in mind, Yu Yi exchanged a general-purpose building, private house, *5 from the Shuguang system without saying anything, for a total of 6,000 gold coins, and a total of 30,000 gold coins. These private houses have red walls and white tiles, and a small chimney on the top of their head. Each building occupies 4 units. There is also a small lawn on the outside, neatly arranged in a row, which looks really good looking. It is much better than the wooden houses made by the slaves themselves on the outside of the sword thorn fence. These are ordinary, private houses, for 5 second-level commanders. These 5 private houses are enclosed within the sword thorn fence, on the first floor. And Yu Yi's own lord's cabin has also been greatly updated, because he just discovered that this other world also sells skins. When he first opened the interface bar of Lord's Cabin, he realized that your cabin and my cabin are all different. Alliance people from the Endless Plain join the Pioneer Legion, and they don't start with just 500 gold coins like Blue Star people like Yu Yi. Although the vast majority of the children of the Pioneer Legion are like this, some families with strong family strength can definitely open the door to their children and descendants. The simplest is the investment of funds and manpower. When ordinary people from rich families enter the boundless plain to open up wasteland, they go directly to build an extraordinary city. How can they start in a small village like Yu Yi? Not only do they have a large amount of financial support, they can quickly build a large number of extraordinary buildings. They can also directly open their plane coordinates to the family and have people send teams over. Naturally, they will not suffer from their alien life of pioneering wasteland. As for the real super families and rich people, it is beyond Yu Yi's imagination. The various bodyguards who accompany the princes and princesses to study all started out as strong men of the 5th or 6th level, and there are even those in the sanctuary. Escort. Their Lord's Cabin and Yuno's Lord's Cabin are completely different. Yu Yi drooled as he looked at the Lord's Cabins on the Shuguang system. This one was in the style of a Barbie fantasy castle. the next one was a fortress, self-propelled fortress, and the third one was a city in the sky. Each one was more outrageous than the last. He even doubted that anyone would really buy this kind of thing. But the comments from these buyers shocked him. Princess Tao Tao, since there is number 400 unit big bed in the castle for me to practice aerobics, I will give you a bad review first. Everything else is passable. The person who posted this comment was an internet princess who bought a fantasy castle, but her financial resources indicate that she may be a real princess. My mecha is big, this self-propelled fortress is just a piece of shit. The one produced by Sugan System is not practical at all. I quickly asked someone to dismantle it and reassemble it. Is the effect okay? There is also a picture of a giant humanoid machine attached below the comment. If I hadn't mentioned it, Yuno would never have guessed that it was actually a house. Sure enough, some of the aesthetics and art of the other world were too advanced for him. Yuya and Yuya compared their little shabby houses and felt deeply that their self-esteem was hurt. Immediately, he got excited and spent a huge sum of 500,000 yuan to buy himself a 3-story bungalow-style detached villa. It's nice to look at. This house doesn't have any other extraordinary attributes, it's just large and comfortable. Oh, I have to say a bonus, that is, there will be a certain acceleration in practicing here. It can automatically increase the star power value by 10-25 points every day, which is a little stronger than before. Just a little bit really. Functionally speaking, this 50W is really not worth it. But in terms of psychological and physical effects, this is heaven. Yi walked back and forth in the new house with an excited look on his face. If it weren't for the extraordinary buildings and the half-clothed slaves outside the house, he would have thought he was back in a beautiful place built in the middle of the Blue Star. A villa on the mountainside. The public house and Lord's cabin were replaced in front of the 5 commanders, which immediately made the 5 second-level indigenous commanders stunned again. It is still too difficult for them to understand the power of time and space and module technology mastered by the Alliance. And when he learned that those 5 exquisite, private houses, were actually for him. The 5 commanders were all so excited that they could not contain themselves. Once upon a time, they were all slaves under the wild boar Kuta who could not even get enough to eat, but now they have their own, private house. Chapter 35 Maria, Rosie and Xena. Although Yuya accepted the plan of Mu Zhong and others and distinguished his private territory from the slave dormitories, he still warned Mu Zhong seriously, there is still more than a day before the Zerg invasion. Obviously it's a tough fight. They also need to be protected by sword-thorn fences. The number of sword-thorn seeds I have here is not large. You still need to collect more sword-thorn seeds yourself. Mu Zhong and others nodded solemnly, indicating that they obeyed the order, and then hurriedly left to execute it. Yuya nodded with satisfaction. According to his idea, since he still didn't know how the Dawn system would transmit the Zerg, he would simply make his territory look like a concentric circle. In this regard, Yuya had no idea how he would transmit the Zerg. The territory was reorganized. This concentric circle is divided into an inner circle and an outer circle. The inner circle is where Yuya's 3-story bungalow is located, as well as an open space. 5 private houses stand on the outermost edge of the open space. 5 second-level commanders are responsible for this, so when danger comes, these 5 can reach Yuno's, Lord's cabin, as quickly as possible. The rest of the open space is filled with pea shooter and sunflower. The inner circle is entirely wrapped by the first layer, sword-thorn fence. There are many more buildings in the outer circle. First, there are a large number of slave dormitories, which are adjacent to the sword-thorn fence, on the side of the inner circle, and then there are several plantation farms, where more than half of the slaves work. Among these plantation farms, the most conspicuous one is naturally Dave's planting farm. Migration and planting of pea shooter are in full swing here. This kind of first-level spiritual plant with offensive capabilities and short growth cycle is favored by the life players in the group. Not only because of its familiar name and cute appearance, its powerful ability is also a major factor. Now that I have bought pea shooter, do I also have to buy sunflower, which can charge it and increase its growth speed? Of course, this is not a bundled sale. Because according to the personal experiments of little farmers in the mountains, this sunflower also has a miraculous effect on the cultivation of lingu. As soon as this news came out, the entire group was excited. For the Chinese people, eating is still the first priority. Suddenly, the sales volume of sunflower was even better than that of pea shooter. After all, those who are in urgent need of pea shooter are all territories that are about to be invaded by the Zerg, and now many life players who think they cannot defend it have joined other people's territories as war workers to seek shelter. The lifestyle players who bought sunflower contributed a lot. It is precisely because of this that the slaves in the entire territory are crazy about liver planting progress under the leadership of NPC Dave. Compared with the bustling sky here, the other extraordinary building in Yuye's territory, Bob's Time and Space Tavern, seems much deserted. It is daytime, the door of the tavern is open, but there is no one inside the building. From the beginning to the end, there was only a bald man wearing a vest that had remained unchanged for thousands of years, arrogantly wiping the wine glass. Also, the building, a bulletin board that waits for a pig to wait for a rabbit. Well, skip this. The remaining outer circle buildings are extraordinary war buildings, such as Wind Arrow Tower, Mage Tower, Blessing Altar, 4 kinds of shamans, Totem Pole, etc. These war buildings are distributed throughout the outer circle, guarding the inner circle in the center and the outer circle surrounding it. Now, Yuye's plan is to let his subjects build another circle of sword thorn fence in the outer circle to become the second circle of city wall. Ikuno's idea was actually influenced by the anime Attack on Titan from his previous life. The kingdom of Eldia on Parody Island, where the protagonist Eren Yeager is located, is surrounded by 3 huge walls. The whole country is supported. From the outside to the inside, these 3 walls are called Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Xena. 3 huge walls constitute the kingdom of Eldia. Of course, Yuye's territory at this time is far from the size of the kingdom of Eldia, but this development trend will not change. The large number of sword thorn seeds needed to build the outer ring need to be found by the people of their own territory. After leaving relevant tasks on the bulletin board, Yuno sure left. However, what he didn't expect was that these slaves could do all this faster than Yuyi imagined. In just a few hours, Yuyi looked at the entire bag of sword thorn seeds passed over by Mu Zhong, and he was dumbfounded. If you touch the sword thorn, won't you get hurt? Because of his personal experience, Yuya knew how difficult it was to remove the seeds. If he was not careful, he would be stabbed and burst into tears and foam at the mouth. Mu Zhong scratched his head and said in his weird Chinese accent, "Of course they will be hurt, but the people in the territory are very enthusiastic about the tasks you have promulgated." Whether it was from the planting team or the patrol team, they all finished it immediately. I also picked some, by the way. Hey, even the second level of pain cannot be completely exempted. Yuya nodded, indicating that he understood. When he was about to pick up his bag and go to the outer circle to see and start casting a new circle of fences, he found that Mu Zhong was still frozen in place, as if he had something to say. Feeling the Lord's gaze, Mu Zhong said hesitantly, "Strange to say, in the process of collecting sword thorn seeds, many people received the gift of plain wool." Mu Zhong looked a little embarrassed. After all, in the culture of the Tianquan Plain, the will of the plain is the supreme existence and cannot be desecrated by slaves. Oh, this kind of death can be said to be a blessing in the eyes of Tianquan people. Look, haven't you been blessed by the Supreme? Then why not just send you directly to serve beside the great being? Yuya held his forehead. It turns out that feudal superstition is unbelievable. If the people of Tianquan do this, how many geniuses born in poverty will die young? How can the plain of Tianquan develop the path to the extraordinary? Sure enough, Yuyi directly abolished this bad habit and emphasized that if a slave received 10 blessings in total, he would truly become a subject and gain the opportunity to enter the inner circle life. Chance. Mu Zhong listened to this resolution in shock. Enlightened lords like Yuyi were really rare. He hurriedly ran out and announced this important event on the territorial bulletin board. Chapter 36, Completion Ceremony, Wonderful Architecture. When Yu Yi was placing the city walls on the outer circle, many slaves took the time to watch. In fact, Yu Yi did not hide the news about the Zerg invasion from them. They were already suffering from hardships, and they knew that their happiness today was hard-won, so they worked day and night. He was afraid that because of something he had not done well, his territory would be breached, and he would not even be qualified to be a slave again. You know, in the eyes of the Zerg, there is only food, no slaves. Therefore, after learning that the plant, Pea-shooter, is a defensive spiritual plant, the slaves turned into replicators one by one. Now the entire territory is full of Pea-shooter, and there is still so much left. Selling it out is all due to their efforts. Yu Yi saw all this, and naturally he would not let them be exposed to the attack range of the Zerg. The new sword thorn fence was built today, which is the best protection for their safety. As the light synthesized by the extraordinary buildings lit up one after another, fences covered with sword thorns appeared in front of Yu Yi. He placed these sword thorn fences next to each other in a circle. Placed them one by one. In the end, Yu Yi left a huge gap as a door for entry and exit. Manually movable roadblocks have been used at the gate, and a round-the-clock patrol team will be on duty starting today. After finishing the placement, Yu Yi nodded slightly with satisfaction. This makes it look like an extraordinary camp. The slaves, who felt that they were valued and their safety was guaranteed, also cheered together. Feeling the simplicity and happiness from their hearts, Yu Yi also felt a sense of accomplishment. Looking at this small prototype of the wall, he couldn't help but start thinking about the future. He wondered if one day, the entire wall could be used as a super-giant extraordinary building. At that time, it will truly live up to the names of Wall of Maria, Wall of Rose, and Wall of Sheena. After all this was over, when he wanted to return to his lord's cabin, he passed by Bob's Time and Space Tavern, and not surprisingly, he heard a familiar sound. Bob's special tune of the day, Tears of Amber. Bite. Tears of Amber has been put on the shelves in all planes of the 5 nearby time and space nodes, and 1,752 customers have bid for it. Based on the highest bidder's offer. This transaction was successful. You have obtained the drawings of the Angel Clan's wonder building, Himtianchi. A drawing? Yu Yi was stunned when he saw the news. He was surprised not to see the familiar number, 1,358,000 gold coins, this time. But this is also reasonable. After all, as Amber Tears is put on the shelves more and more times, more and more buyers will pay attention to Yuno's plane. Fortunately, Bob's Time and Space Tavern has blurred coordinates, which is in line with the contract content of Plane Will and World Tree. Otherwise, there might have been forces who wanted to follow the clues and come to the door, and kidnapped Bob directly by force. I just don't know, can the NPC leave his extraordinary building for a long time? In any case, the more people pay attention to Amber Tears, the higher the price will be. After all, this is a seller's market. The previous buyer who liked to buy with gold coins had bet on the psychology of many buyers and gave a limit price of 1,358,000 gold coins, hitting the target twice in a row. But this time, this person has met his opponent. However, what is this drawing that is valued at 1,358,000 gold coins by the Dawn system? Why can it be sold so expensively? Yu Yi wanted to search for relevant information in the Shuguang system, but none of the content that could be retrieved could be viewed by him, a newcomer with level 1 authority. He had no choice but to give up the method of obtaining permissions from the Dawn system, and instead started playing with the newly acquired architectural drawings himself. The moment I saw the function of this building, Yu Yi's eyes suddenly turned red, just because this building definitely lived up to its reputation as a wonder. Because its most powerful function is resurrection. Himtianchi mainly accumulates the power of wishes in the entire extraordinary territory, and finally uses the power of wishes to achieve various incredible functions. And its most powerful function is resurrection. It can consume the power of wishing accumulated in the past and make a person who is about to die return to a normal state. This is the power of spectacle. These buildings have transcended the concept of extraordinary in the ordinary sense, and each one has abilities beyond imagination. Moreover, every wonder is unique. Once an extraordinary territory is built in the boundless plain, this wonder will never appear in the world again. What makes Yu Yi feel extremely regretful is that this Kim Tianqi has been standing in the territory of the Angel clan for tens of thousands of years. Yu Yi has no way to fully present the entire wonder in his extraordinary territory. Of course, if this is a drawing of a wonder building that has not yet been built, it can definitely not be bought with just 1,000,000 gold coins. I think it took the Angel race too long to build this wonder. This blueprint is not a rare thing. Maybe people from many races have it. But even so, the drawing of this wonder building is still worth millions. The reason is that the ancillary buildings that make up this spectacle are also ridiculously strong. Taken individually, they can rival corresponding high-quality buildings, which makes Yu Yi extremely excited. The complete wonder cannot be reproduced, but there is always a chance to dream about these small pieces. In fact, the birth of every wonder building is accidental. It does not mean that simple strength is enough. Its birth often also has a certain historicity and sense of destiny. In short, it is a mysterious and mysterious existence. In short, even among the top ethnic groups, there are definitely not many people who can be promoted to wonder buildings. Suddenly, Yu Ye's heart moved. As an architect, recognized by the Dawn system, can he copy some of the buildings on Blue Star in his previous life and promote them to wonders? In particular, the magnificent buildings such as the Great Wall and the Forbidden City are engraved in the blood of ancient China. It was not an extraordinary building made by extraordinary power like another world. It was all cast stone by the ancients. If such a building was perfectly reproduced after combining the customs of another world and adapting measures to local conditions, would it be considered a wonder? Yu Ye didn't know either. After all, this matter was too far away from him. What he has to do now is to build his own small territory first and survive the first wave of Zerg invasion. He quickly put the matter behind him. He counted the time and finally came to a 3-story wooden structure tower. This was the first level, Mage Tower, and it was also the target that Yu Ye was planning to carry out the mutation today. As a war building that can release magical power to attack enemies, it is very easy for novice lords to overcome the early difficulties. This kind of building is very strange, with a total of 3 different branches of power. One is Elemental Mage Tower, one is Arcane Mage Tower, and the other is Production Mage Tower. These are all extraordinary buildings that can be differentiated from the 1-star Mage Tower. The Mage Tower Yu Ye chose was the Elemental Mage Tower. Elemental Mage Tower is the representative building of the elemental school in the mage profession. It advocates that the world is constructed from the 4 basic elements of water, wind, earth, and fire. Therefore, it also has 4 branches: water, wind, earth, and fire. The Mage Tower in Yu Ye's territory is the water element branch of the Elemental Mage Tower. As the only war building with long-range attack capabilities in the territory, Yu Ye has already mutated the Arrow Tower, so today's mutation opportunity is left to it. Yu Yi rubbed his little hands, a bright light suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, and he was instantly ecstatic. Because Orange is out again. Chapter 37. I have seen this sister before. The appearance of the 3-story tower made of raw wood suddenly changed drastically. Although the entire tower was still a wooden structure, it became an extraordinary building with snow maple as the main material. This kind of wood is born with a halo effect of ice element affinity +1 and is an extremely excellent material among 1-star spiritual plants. And this ice elemental mage tower, made entirely of snow maple, not only has its building grid expanded from the original 4 grids to 9 grids, the height has also changed. There is a huge blue crystal suspended in mid-air on the top of the tower, and on the top of the tower, there is a graceful figure flashing past. Yu Yi rubbed his little hands in anticipation. This seemed to be the first female NPC, but he didn't know what kind of character he was. As the graceful figure walked down from the Mage Tower, step by step, he suddenly felt that this figure looked very familiar to him. This white off-shoulder plush cloak, a white felt hat, delicate and round ears hidden between ice blue hair. Not much expression can be seen on her beautiful face. She is holding a bag in her hand, a huge staff with a handle that is taller than a human body. The top of the staff is the same blue crystal as the crystal floating on the top of the Mage Tower, exuding a bone-deep cold breath. I think I have seen this younger sister Yu Yi before. Is she even remotely similar to Sister Zhao Jun in the King of Glory mobile game that was popular in China in her previous life? I think back then, he was considered an old mage player who wandered in the canyon. He especially loved the grass on the left side, and eventually won the title of one of the 3 Sisters of the Grass. But now that he really saw Zhao Jun's sister, how should he go up and say hello? If you just go up and say, "Hi. We are destined, I played with you in my previous life." Will he be beaten to death directly? Moreover, although my sister is delicate and graceful, she seems to be helpless, but she is a serious ice mage. If you dare to talk nonsense, she will have a blizzard and make you freeze into a popsicle in the middle of summer. Wang Zhaojun didn't say much, he just bowed slightly in front of Yu Yi, and then returned to his Mage Tower, sitting in the top room of the Mage Tower, watching the flowers bloom and fall. Wan Yunshu looked leisurely and at ease. Only then did Yu Yi retract his gaze and take a closer look at the new extraordinary building in front of him. Building name, Zhaojuan's Mage Tower, mutation +1. Building level, level 1. Building area, 9 grids. Building quality, legend. Building life, 5500/5500, plus 2500. Building scope, 1200 units, plus 200. Building materials required, the building materials are redeemed by module technology. Building function, 1 normal attack every 10 seconds, you can accumulate star power to launch a freezing ray. This ray will add a slow deceleration effect to all enemy units along the way, and cause 800 plus 150 points of spell damage. 2 powerful attack, Mage Tower, can accumulate power for more than 90 seconds, directly launch a freeze ray, add freeze, frostbite effect to all enemy units along the way, and cause 3000 plus 1200 points of spell damage. Newly added, 3. This building has been mutated into Snow Maple, and is equipped with the battlefield effect of Ice Elemental Affinity +1, and the damage coefficient of all ice spells is increased by 1%. Both Freezing Ray and Freezing Ray in 12 can get damage bonus. New additions, 4. Added the Ice Mage NPC Wang Zhaojun. She possesses the extremely powerful power of ice magic. However, she is limited by the grade of your building and cannot exert her full power. On the battlefield, Wang Zhaojun will enter a war state, quickly recall an ice spell below level 3 every 10 seconds, and randomly release it on enemy units. The first spell released when entering the war state has a spell consumption of 0 and does not require star power replenishment. The duration of this effect depends on the amount of star stones stored in the building. If all enemy units are destroyed, Wang Zhaojun will end the war state. Newly added, 5. Wang Zhaojun can also act as an ice mage mentor in normal times. When a water mage enters the range of this extraordinary building, there is a chance to obtain a professional transfer scroll and change his profession to an ice mage. New, 6. Wang Zhaojun will also develop some ice scrolls on weekdays, part of which will be handed over to the Lord in the form of taxation, and the remaining scrolls can be freely traded by the people. New addition 7. If Wang Zhaojun wants to regain his power, he not only needs the Lord to continuously upgrade the extraordinary building, but also needs to complete a series of complicated preparations. Wang Zhaojun will freely release tasks to all those who have the Extraordinary Citizen Qualification Certificate of Yuya territory. Wang Zhaojun, indeed Wang Zhaojun. It is not surprising that this 1-star extraordinary building is rated as legendary. Without considering other things, after a 1-star building is opened, it releases an ice spell below level 3 every 10 seconds. Isn't this powerful? At the first level, a single item is only 20 attribute points. The second level peak reached 60 attribute points. What is the concept of third level? This is a powerful existence whose highest attributes can reach 100 points. If a spell of this level were to perform a full field AoE, it would directly clear out all the enemy's mobs. In addition to the powerful effect of this attack, the appearance of Wang Zhaojun also brought completely different changes to Yu Ye's extraordinary territory. Not only can it give you a job transfer certificate, it can also produce the material, Ice Scroll, and it can also open a related task chain. Yu Ye held his forehead, feeling that the extraordinary territory he was building was becoming more and more like a game style. Even NPC task chains have been released. In the future, buildings and NPCs with these powerful powers may really fill the entire city. When that time comes, it will definitely be spectacular. However, such a scene would be too early for Yu Ye to talk about now. And just when Yu Ye's change ended and he left from the Mage Tower, the live broadcast room on the distant Klein Plain was in full swing and the popularity was high. Not long after it started broadcasting today, it reached its climax, with about 4,000 to 5,000 people watching online. And the climax was that they finally saw the whole process of Yu Ye's summoning. Chapter 38 Territory Scoring Mechanism and Beyond Rounds. After Bai Zhao's shift today, he was not surprised to see that his seat was in a mess again. Melon seed shells, snack packaging bags, napkins, and drink paper cups covered the entire table. The instigator, Gao Li, was walking out of the office of her superior, Mike, with a relaxed look. Her clothes were baggy, and her delicate face that had been smeared with countless layers of powder showed a contented look. Gao Li glanced at Bai Zhao arrogantly, returned to her seat, put on her valuable-looking lambskin bag, and left without looking back. This couple of dogs. Bai Zhao secretly sighed in her heart. If it was a private mess, she wouldn't despise the other party so much. Now they have completely uncovered it. Shameless. While cleaning up the garbage on the table, I swore secretly. Next time, I must change my workstation next time. Whoever wants to share a workstation with Gao Li should let him use it. Bai Zhao had already made the same oath a few days ago. But whether it is useful in the end, you will know by looking at the results. After Bai Zhao packed up all the garbage, he used the optical brain again. With the 96 split-screen switching of the optical brain, Bai Zhao naturally rushed to Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room as soon as possible and squatted there. This kind of unauthorized live broadcast time is actually not fixed, and the Sugan system will avoid some embarrassing moments to broadcast, but for Ikuya Hano, who has rushed through several rounds of traffic pools, in order to better consolidate the audience, mass traffic will generally give him a slightly stable time to broadcast. Even if there is an error, it won't be too different. With the approximate live broadcast time, there are always water friends who like to grab the sofa and gather early in the live broadcast room with a black screen, waiting to chat all over the world. Hey, tomorrow, the war between the Klein Plain and the Zerg will officially begin. Although I am only a P-class citizen, I still feel nervous. It's strange to say that I used to have to fight every other day in 3 days, and I didn't feel anything at all. Now that version 14.0, New Human Observation Record, has been released, I am very nervous. Yes. I feel the same way. I used to feel that war was too far away from me. Now that I can witness it with my own eyes, it's really a strange feeling. I heard that this time there is a round ranking for the tower defense in Klein's Plain. Not only our local pioneer army will be ranked for the defense rounds, but the people from other worlds will also participate in the ranking. Then the aliens will suffer a big loss, right? How to say? Some super families in the local area, even if they cannot provide a lot of help openly, the small amount of resources provided secretly are enough for them to easily withstand more than 20 rounds. Not to mention, they also have some high-level bodyguards to protect them. How many days do those talents from other worlds develop? Can they withstand 20 rounds? I don't believe it. Bai Zhao naturally knows about the ranking of tower defense rounds this time, as the backstage manager responsible for the live broadcast of extraordinary territory construction. Unlike these netizens who know little about it, she needs to know more comprehensively. First of all, rankings are indeed necessary. The local pioneers and the alien blue stars each have separate lists, and this list counts their respective internal rounds of resistance. This list has a large number of merit points and territory development spree rewards. As the merit points increase, the authority of the Shuguang system can be increased. Internal information, extraordinary knowledge, war buildings, mall products, etc. will be further open to users with higher authority. The indispensable gift package for territory development is a large number of gold coin rewards, extraordinary buildings packaged with modular technology, and even treasures for breaking ranks and rare spiritual pets. No matter what, for his first official appearance in front of people from another world, the reward given by the Alliance was still very generous. As for the water friends in the live broadcast room, they mentioned the common ranking of the two parties. But it is a misinformation that is not fully understood. Taking into account certain off-site factors, the extraordinary territories of many local people have the tilt and help of a large number of resources behind them. If we only look at the tower defense rounds, it would be a bit bullying. This is not only unfair to the Blue Star people, but also unfair to the pioneers of the local plane. Therefore, this list that combines both sides is not based solely on rounds. Look instead at Beyond the Round. The so-called Transcendence Round means that the Dawn system assigns a scoring index to the development level of all extraordinary territories. It evaluates an index based on the enemy's siege power. Only when the enemy's index exceeds the territory index, then when a round begins, the records and rankings begin. For this kind of tower defense, the enemy forces assigned by the Shuguang system will naturally become stronger and stronger. When the enemy's strength score exceeds the territory score for the first time, each round of resistance will be extremely difficult and extremely valuable. If the territory develops ahead of schedule, then the territory score will naturally be particularly high. If there are high-level bodyguards present, it will also rise. So for such an extraordinary territory, it may take more than 100 rounds before it really starts to be counted as a transcendence round. And if the development of the territory is very backward, such as the vast majority of Blue Star people who have just entered the boundless plane, then perhaps by the fourth round, the territory will have reached almost the limit, then for them, the fifth round will begin. Record Beyond the Round. Many gentlemen who seek stability will automatically give up when the resistance round reaches a more difficult stage. Because if you continue to persist, you may lose more than you gain and cause great damage to your extraordinary territory. This gave opportunities to many pioneers from civilian backgrounds, as well as Blue Star players from other worlds. This kind of evaluation round is indeed more able to see the resilience and potential of a territory, and it is also more fair. Therefore, using this Beyond the Round as an indicator is relatively acceptable to everyone. And while everyone was discussing in the live broadcast room, today's live broadcast finally started. All the water friends who received the live broadcast notification came to the live broadcast one after another, and the words "such and such VIP" appeared one after another. These people had already paid for Ikuya Hano, and became VIP members. As for the reward function, although some cheap gifts are now available, if you want to get real discounts, you have to wait until Ikuya Hano officially signs the contract. Bai Xiao looked at the rising popularity. In just a few days, Ikuya Hano, who had crossed the traffic pool for a few days, already had some loyal fans. With this trend, all the traffic pools in the first 10 rounds were full of fans. Chopping melons and vegetables can easily lead you to the top one spot. Really angry. It's not in vain, she is protecting Ikuya Hano's interests here. As soon as the broadcast started, the number of live viewers quickly exceeded 2,000, and the growth rate of the number of people slowly slowed down. And Yu Ye's figure finally appeared in the live broadcast room. Chapter 39 Who Doesn't Love a Beautiful Sister? The time when the live broadcast started happened to be when Yu Ye was rearranging the various extraordinary buildings in the territory. Accompanying Yu Ye to Bob's Time and Space Tavern, he collected the drawings of the wonders of the Himtianchi, and then walked straight towards the Mage Tower to perform architectural mutation. The viewers in the live broadcast room also felt the layout of the entire camp change at this moment. Oh yo, it feels pretty good. Yesterday I said that the anchor had no aesthetic sense and made a mess of a good camp plan. I apologize today. This concentric circle structure is a bit interesting. The inner layer of the first circle is the Lord's cabin, and a few ordinary, private houses, of second-level commanders. The second circle is distributed with more than 10 kinds of extraordinary buildings, supporting each other. The cover is interspersed with the self-built huts of the slaves and some production buildings. The distribution is quite reasonable. If you have a chance to join the Pioneer Corps as a transcendent in your next life, just follow the path of the anchor. Many viewers are interested in the new atmosphere of Yuye's camp. This should be the last wave of adjustments before tomorrow's attack on the city. The entire camp is surrounded by nearly 1,000 sunflowers and pea shooters. This astonishing number is all generated by the solar energy of sunflowers. Each pea shooter is like a soldier, arranged neatly. At this moment, they are all accumulating the star power floating in the air, ready to release all the pea shooters for the upcoming battle. The market is open. The market is open. Let's bet on how many rounds the anchor can't survive tomorrow. This proposal immediately attracted a large number of people to join. Some water friends formed a small group privately and started the so-called guessing. Sure enough, there are quite a lot of P-class citizens who have enough to eat and have nothing to do. In Klein's Plain, the welfare benefits of P-class citizens are really good. Since the stronger the extraordinary person is, the harder it is to give birth to an heir, so a large number of extraordinary people still have to be born from a large number of P-class citizens. Due to the decline in the desire to have children in recent years, the entire alliance is vigorously encouraging childbirth to increase the number of extraordinary people in the entire alliance. There are so many benefits, and most of the spare money has naturally flowed into the live broadcast activities that have become popular in various dimensions in recent versions. I compared the territories of some other aliens, and I can only say that the gap is too big, and they are not at the same level at all. If even Ikuya Hano can't withstand 20 rounds, then there are not many left. Then you have really underestimated this generation of aliens. I can easily get a few amazing extraordinary territories by just swiping. I saw a druid walking like a tree 2 days ago. The human sect has now planted a whole patch of iron tree saplings, all of which are level 1 peak spiritual plants. Is it the kind of iron tree that has 3 values close to 20 attribute values? And it is planted in a whole area? It is difficult for the basic units of the Zerg to break through the defense. Although the Zerg has many types of soldiers, most of them have trade-offs in attribute values. Facing this race with almost no shortcomings, it is really difficult to start. Bai Xiao looked at the comments on the barrage and nodded slightly. She actually knew something about the druid player who planted iron trees. The back-end manager's workstation was not far from her. In fact, during this time, many people in their small group of backstage staff shared many powerful or novel alien territories. This life player of the Tree Human Virtue School is a very famous one. This will also be one of Ikuya Hano's competitors in the traffic pool before signing. Of course, although there will be competition among these outstanding anchors, most of them can be signed. The competition is based on the length of the signing period and some benefits after signing. For example, the support of traffic packages and Guangxi carrying products are actually starting to compete without the anchors knowing it at all. As the orange light lit up in the live broadcast room, a large wave of barrages officially came. This is all a tribute to the new NPC Wang Xiaojun. And the reason why it attracts so many comments is naturally because this appearance is not a mass change of heads and faces nowadays, but purely natural. Ikuya Hano summoned a new character, and before the Akabano system had time to change its face, a large group of old otakus who had been single for decades took screenshots. It was only after the Akabano system changed its face that it became extremely embarrassing. It was discovered unexpectedly that Wang Xiaojun, who had changed his face, was not even 1% of his original appearance. Holy shit, this time I summoned a super beauty, starry eyes, drooling. Sure enough, it is a god-level summoner talent, but I don't know where it was summoned this time. I think this young lady is so beautiful that she doesn't even look like a human being. Praise, anti-bang essence. Also, Shuguang system, I hate you. Hurry up and change the beauty of the fairy sister back. A bunch of cute girls are licking wildly in the live broadcast room. Am I the only one paying attention to the young lady's clothes? It looks so exotic and different from the minimalist clothes of our Klein Plain. I hate it. Why hasn't this anchor signed a contract? I want to buy the same clothes as the young lady in his live broadcast room. This was another roar from a girl who was not short of money last time. Pass it on, this male anchor sells women's clothing. Pass it on, this male anchor is wearing women's clothing. Pass it on, this male anchor is a woman. This time, Ikuno changed into a living person, in full view of everyone. As for the talent of Ikuya Hano, it was almost 100% determined to be the talent of the summoner profession, one of the 12 basic professions in the Federation. However, the attentive viewers such as Barrage King and Rookies should humbly ask for advice, who were sitting in front of the optical brain discovered something unusual. Even if this anchor summons a character, why does the material of the Mage Tower change? Could it be that this new character summoned also changed the nature of the extraordinary building? Hiss. So it seems that the level of this summoned object is not low. Those who were interested secretly recorded this summoning scene to prepare for subsequent material editing. Bai Xiao smiled like a flower when he saw that the traffic pool of other live broadcast rooms had already exploded less than half an hour after the broadcast started today. If nothing else happens, today's live broadcast will be as popular as it should be in the next round. Generally speaking, there are 30 rounds of traffic pool before signing, but there will be some live broadcast rooms that suddenly become popular, and they will jump into the signing pool in a short period of time. You can skip a grade when you go to school, and it's reasonable to skip a grade through live streaming, right? But skipping a grade also requires passing the entrance examination. The live entrance examination is 10 rounds, 20 rounds, and 30 rounds, which are 10 rounds. If nothing else goes wrong with Ikuya Hano's popularity today, I'm afraid I'll have to take the entrance exam tomorrow. This rhythm is very good, and it can just catch up with the hot spots of tower defense. If the live broadcast is better in this aspect, it may not be impossible to directly jump from the 10th round to the 20th and 30th round traffic levels. Because some territory offensive and defensive battles are over in half a day. Some territories can be fought back and forth for several days to continue the popularity. Who do you think the audience will choose? At this time, the live broadcast room was still clamoring to give the camera to the beautiful sister. Wang Xiaojun in the camera just showed his face in front of Yu Yi and then returned to his mage tower in a very cold manner. You actually let this young lady live in such a small and cramped room. Host, you are not a human being. Hehe, she is looking at me and smiling at me. Does anyone know her name? I'm just waiting for the anchor's extraordinary territory to be opened, and then I'm going to travel. Take a photo with the little sister. Be careful. If you want to travel to other planes, find a larger place. This kind of small territory is really unsafe. A friend of mine went to a small territory, and he happened to be attacked by an emergency siege. I couldn't even squeeze into the teleport hall, so I was captured and made a slave of the orcs, and I'm still mining now. Although there are some alarmists upstairs, it's better to be cautious. Seeing the direction of the live broadcast, it started to move forward again. Bai Xiao watched it for a while, then switched the split screen to another live broadcast room. After all, she is not Ikuya Hano's exclusive manager yet, and she has a lot of young anchors who are testing the waters. Chapter 40 starting the main story, Infinite War. In order to relieve the pressure on the front line of Klein Plain, a small group of enemy troops are now officially teleported to the front of the territory. Countdown. 3, 2, 1. Transmission completed. Permanent mission, Infinite War, officially starts. The first wave of 32 enemy red beetles and 9 purple-bellied ringworms have been released on the battlefield. The screen in front of Yu Yi quickly refreshed, and bright red warning fonts were typed out from the virtual screen. He rubbed his palms slightly nervously. Any individual who encounters something like war for the first time will inevitably be nervous. If the enemy of the war is not humans, but the ferocious Zerg, then this tension will be doubled. But when he turned his head and looked at the extraordinary territory surrounded by the double-layer, sword-thorn fence, surrounded by pea-shooters and more than 10 kinds of extraordinary buildings, Yu Yi suddenly felt a little calmer. He also has Mu Zhong, Wu Lu and other second-level extraordinary beings by his side, so he should be able to ensure his safety. Then his eyes showed a hint of determination. So, now let him see what the top races in the world of endless plains are like. Soon, the buzzing sound of flapping wings was heard in the woods one after another, and several red beetles the size of wild boars had already revealed themselves without any concealment. They waved their two sharp claws and easily smashed the trees blocking the road in front of them. Split, then sprint forward. Their steps didn't stop for a moment, heading towards the only territory outside the forest with great purpose. And above the other side, a black-purple head-sized bee-shaped insect fluttered and flew, closely following the red beetle. The long black thorn in the bee's tail made people feel scared, and it emitted a frightening purple light from time to time. Its whole body is covered with short and hard long hair, and its huge mouthparts occupying one half of its head are always dripping with unknown purple-black saliva. The Zerg are coming. It was also the first time for Mu Zhong, Wu Lu and other second-level commanders to see the Zerg tribe. Just one glance made them feel numb. Wu Lu even wanted to pull out his arrow and kill them directly with super long range. But under Yu Ye's prohibition, Wu Lu did not choose to take action, but closed his eyes again and adjusted his breathing. Next, there may be a super tough battle to fight. She couldn't allow her to be half-hearted and take it lightly, so she started consuming her star power now. These menacing red beetles were unaware of being transported to another dimension and were still sprinting forward, trying to suck up all the blood food visible to the naked eye. Yu Ye looked solemnly at these giant insects that were hundreds or thousands of times larger than in his previous life, silently waiting for them to approach. 5,000 units, 3,000 units, 1,000 units, 800 units. He raised his hand and waved slightly, and the nearly 1,000 pea shooters guarding this position all opened their eyes, mustered up all their strength to absorb the star power in the air, and shot out pea bullets in unison. A thick greenery rushed straight towards the battlefield, falling on the red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms that were constantly approaching, and burst out with a dense sound like a rainstorm. But more pea bullets hit the ground, setting off a puff of smoke. Yu Ye clenched his fists nervously, waiting for the smoke and dust to dissipate. The wave of sprays just now directly sucked out the surrounding star power. The results shouldn't be too bad. A few seconds passed, and Yu Ye looked at the indistinguishable mutilated insect corpses 800 units away, and tried not to vomit. That's it? That's it? Mu Zhong and others who were following Yu Ye looked at each other in confusion when they saw this scene. It was difficult for them to take the time to discuss how to set up defenses and where to dig traps whenever they had time in the past 3 days, and finally came up with the so-called perfect plan. But now, the enemy GGs without even breaking through the farthest layer of fire line. This made Mu Zhong and the other 5 people, who had been holding back a wave of big moves, feel a rush of old blood in their hearts and almost spit it out. Isn't it the promised top race in the endless plain? It turns out that it is so easy to be killed under fire suppression. Don't take it lightly. It was just the first wave and the simplest wave. Yu Ye said in a deep voice. A new message popped up on the blood-colored virtual screen in front of him. Do you want to resist the second wave of enemies? For each additional round of attack you resist, you will have a higher level in the final mission evaluation and get a higher title in the final ranking. Ikuno chose the yes option without any doubt. The second wave of enemy troops, 58 red beetles, 21 purple-bellied ringworms, and 1 fungly mantis, has been released on the battlefield. As soon as the electronic sound of the system fell, new Zerg emerged from the woods that had been bulldozed by the red beetles. There was no obstacle to their progress. This time they sprinted at a faster speed. At a distance of 800 units, Yuno gave the order and all the pea shooters stationed on this side sprayed a wave of pea bullets again. Densely packed bullets fell, like raindrops hitting the shell of the red beetle. This time, Yu Ye could see it very clearly. After the red beetle was hit by several pea bullets, one after another, the beetle easily shattered and appeared defenseless. Not to mention the purple-bellied ringworm whose defense power is still lower than it. The only thing that surprised Yu Ye was the Zerg named fungly mantis, which had extraordinary speed. Even in the hail of bullets, it quickly dodged many pea bullets. In the fire coverage area of 800 units, this fungly mantis rushed forward by 150 units, reaching a distance of 650 units from the territory before being bombarded by focused fire. Yu Yi was a little frightened. If he had a hand-to-hand fight with this kind of Zerg, he would most likely die at the hands of his opponent. Fortunately, he has people, money, and territory. There is absolutely no need to confront the opponent head-on. The next few waves were almost perfect reproductions of the tactics of the previous waves. It was not until the 7th wave that there were new changes. The 7th wave of enemy troops, 148 red beetles, 56 purple-bellied ringworms, 6 fungly mantises, and 4 weevils, have been released on the battlefield. The 800-unit life-and-death distance has become the death zone for many Zerg species. The corpses piled up here have blocked the road leading to the woods. But this wave was obviously different. After a distance of 800 units, the red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms were still wiped out, but 5 fungly mantises and 4 weevils passed this direction line. Among them, the 4 first-order weevils are the most eye-catching, with their ivory-like porcelain-white tough carapace smooth and without any dent marks. These weevils actually passed through the volley of peas without any injuries. Mu Zhong and others were all nervous. These weevils were difficult to deal with the naked eye. If calculated based on attribute values, the defensive attribute of these weevils was almost 17 or 18 points, even if it was not 20 points. For monsters of this level, the traps they prepared should come in handy. Another wave of straight shots, this time all the fungly mantises fell to the ground, their health points slowly draining away, but the 12 weevils were still unscathed. Obviously, the pea shooter's attack was not enough to break through the weevils' defenses. Mu Zhong and Wu Lu looked at each other, feeling a little more at ease. He kept thinking in his mind. It doesn't matter, as long as you take 2 steps forward, these weevils will fall into the tunnel they dug in advance. With their bulky size, they may not be able to climb out for a long time. But before the words in his heart could be completely finished, 3 arrows shot towards the weevil at almost the same time, and milky white blood slowly flowed out from the wound. The weevil is injured. The powerful power of the blast arrows gives them a stronger armor-breaking ability than ordinary arrows. Although they have not directly killed the weevils, they have found the weakness of this insectoid creature. As if to confirm Yu Ye's conjecture, 3 more gusts of wind arrows were fired at the already injured weevil. This time, the weevil was successfully killed on the spot. Suddenly, all the frightened slaves who were watching around burst into cheers. You are listening to it in Eugene Light Novels.